Chapter 3203. Huang Shouchuan stares blankly, then nods. I did get it. Although this Fanghua quicksand is a top-secret Dan recipe, it's hard to find and doesn't have much practical use. Let me have a look. Huang Shouchuan grunts. Miss, what do you want this Fanghua quicksand recipe for? Suddenly, his eyes widen. You, don't tell me you want to use it yourself. Miss, please reconsider. Yu Yanran bites her lip and doesn't answer him. Instead, she whispers, Brother Huang, don't ask, just give me the recipe. By the way, is there any news from Weiran? Hearing the name Li Weiran, Huang Shouchuan frowns in disgust and shakes his head. Miss, this Li Weiran is sinister and vicious. He has the ambition of a wolf. You must not trust him too much. Now that we know that Mayan is on the floating island through his soul-chasing curse, we can send people to kill that Shin musician remnant. This way we can get rid of any future troubles. Yu Yanran is a bit tempted. But then she frowns and gently shakes her head. Although I found a space-shuttling magic weapon that can replace the Mirror of Illusions, I tried several times and couldn't go to other planes. I heard from the Polar Domain's Tian Shuo Palace that the space barrier passage collapsed, making it impossible to connect to other planes. It will take at least 3 months, at most several years to recover. Huang Shouchuan stares blankly, looking at Yu Yanran with some distress and worry. Miss, you want to use the Fanghua quicksand because of this? Jun Mayan is on the floating island. And the passage between the Shushan continent and the floating island has temporarily collapsed. Di Mingju, who is in the Shushan continent, may not even know where Mayan has gone. In this way, as long as Mayan dies on the floating island, Yu Yanran takes the Fanghua quicksand and turns into Mayan, going to Di Mingju's side. She can easily assume Mayan's identity and become Di Mingju's beloved. Yu Yanran bites her lip and doesn't answer. But not answering is tantamount to tacit approval. Huang Shouchuan only feels his heart clench into a ball. His miss is so holy, noble, and beautiful, how can she be compared to a mere Shin musician remnant, a vulgar mortal woman? He wanted Yu Yanran to put down her pride and pretend to be someone else to win his favor. How humiliating was this for her? Miss, why do you have to do this? Is that Di Mingju really worth it for you to pay so much for him? Huang Shouchuan bitterly says, as long as Jun Mayan is killed, you will have plenty of time to slowly win Di Jun's heart. With your talent, looks, and conduct, as long as you are willing to take the initiative to get close to you, which man wouldn't fall head over heels for you? Yu Yanran smiled bitterly. 2 teardrops flowed down from her eyes once more. Big brother Huang, you don't know that the imperial monarch doesn't just not care about me, he simply detests me, and sees me as nothing more than worthless grass. Furthermore, the medicine king of the polar domain can sense the aura of the soul-chasing curse on my body. I'm afraid that the emperor has already become suspicious of me. If I don't take action now, I won't be able to obtain the emperor's love. I'm afraid that even Jun Mayan's death will be blamed on me. At that time, it will be a calamity for our Linglong Island. Huang Shouchuan turned pale with fright. How could this be? Miss has almost never personally touched the curse, how could you be tainted by its aura? Then he gritted his teeth and said, it's all because of Li Weiran. I knew that he was a jinx that descended from the heavens. Miss, you shouldn't have saved him back then. Chapter 3204. Yu Yanran shakes her head. I thought he was pitiful at first, with that pair of eyes. Pausing, she frowns. I didn't expect him to have that kind of temperament. But in any case, he helped in eradicating the remnants of the Shin musicians. Li Weiran relied on our Linglong Island's protection to survive until now. Isn't it reasonable to do something in return? Now it's just killing a Shin musician remnant who hasn't even reached Golden Immortal, and it's been delayed for so long. I don't know if he's really doing things for our Linglong Island. Miss, why do you keep protecting him? Yu Yanran wipes away her tears and rebukes, Brother Huang, why do you always make things difficult for Wei Ran? In my heart, only you, Big Brother Huang, are the most important people who have always been by my side. Even if I recognize Wei Ran as my younger brother, how can he be compared to Brother Huang? Huang Shouchuan's face turns red, but his eyes reveal deep joy and affection. But he quickly hides it, saying worriedly, even if you kill Mayan and have Fenghua quicksand, miss, it won't be easy for you to pretend to be Mayan. Otherwise, those two idiots Ling Qingwan and Ling Yuexia wouldn't have died so unsightly. Yu Yanran shows a well-thought-out expression, Brother Huang, don't worry. I've already instructed the people who went to the Yanwu continent to investigate Mayan's life in detail. 3 months later, when the stronghold's passageway is reopened and they return, I'll know how Jun Mayan and the Emperor met, and how. Speaking up to here, Yu Yanran's face, which has always been aloof from worldly affairs, shows a painful hatred, and how she had a child. In addition, Brother Huang, you don't know that Wei Ran still hasn't returned from killing Mayan. It's not that he's incompetent. Rather, I let him have more contact with Mayan, and record her usual temperament, cultivation, and techniques with a mirage stone. In this way, after Mayan's death, I can completely replace her position and stay by Emperor's side. Huang Shouchuan feels a stabbing pain in his heart, but he still reluctantly says, Miss, this method is really good. Even if you'll be recognized after a long time, young Miss can first cook the raw rice with the Emperor and use the secret technique of our Linglong Island to give birth to a new heir for the polar domain. The higher a man or woman's cultivation base was, the less suitable their bodies were for bearing children. Especially when one reached the Xian immortal realm, one's bones would be completely forged into the immortal bones of the immortal realm. One would not be considered a human anymore. For the sake of balance, it was almost impossible for women above the Xian immortal realm to conceive children. As for men above the mystic immortal realm, even if they could have children with mortal women of low cultivation, the children would usually not live to adulthood. However, there was a secret method on the Linglong Island that could transform a woman above the mysterious immortal realm into a mother body suitable for pregnancy. Furthermore, even a child born to a man with an extremely high cultivation base would not have any defects. This was also one of the reasons why Tong Hui Nian wanted Yu Yanran to be the mistress of the polar domain. Huang Shouchuan faintly says, wait until Miss gives birth to the polar domain's future successor, then we'll think of a way to kill that vile spawn that Jun Mayan left behind. At that time, even if Di Jun discovers that you're not Jun Mayan, so what? Could it be that he'd be willing to kill you and his only child? Yu Yanran's eyes reveal a look of reluctance. In the end, the child is innocent. Chapter 3205. Miss, you mustn't be soft-hearted. If you don't remove the roots, the spring wind will blow deep. Do you want to let the remnants of the Shin musicians continue to harm the world? Yu Yanran grits her teeth and nods. Huang Shouchuan, now we're just waiting for Li Weiran to quietly kill Mayan on the floating island. Quietly. I'm afraid not. Huang Shouchuan hasn't finished speaking when a low and clear voice comes from outside the house. Di Mingju is by Mayan's side right now. What about me? Yu Yanran abruptly turns around and sees the white-clothed youngster slowly walking in from the door. Her complexion greatly changes. Wei Ran, what do you mean by that? Floating island, gravel hill. Dead bird, get out of the way and let us out. The hole is about to be closed. The little phoenix flaps his wings and says methodically, no, pretty sister said we can't go out, so we can't go out. A group of fiendish people are about to rush forward again. The little phoenix unceremoniously spits out a fireball. In a split second, a mournful scream comes out from the crowd. The blazing flames slowly disappear, and the righteous indignation of the crowd also disappears, leaving only panic, fear, and despair. The little phoenix shakes his wings, bored to death, and buries his head to sleep. Behind him, the hole that Mayan blasted open with her array-breaking technique finally slowly disappears. The thick fog becomes seamless again, without the slightest flaw. The gravel hill and the floating island outside become two different worlds. Thump. Someone kneels on the ground, tears mixed with the mud on his face flowing down. It's over, it's over. We can't get out anymore. We still can't leave this damned place, boo-hoo. This person's cries seem to ignite the suffocating sadness in the hearts of the others. The original inhabitants of the gravel hill are fine, they've never left the gravel hill since they were born. For them, no matter how beautiful and dreamy the floating island is, it's only an abstract and one-sided description, unable to arouse much emotion in their hearts. But those wastes who were thrown into the gravel hill, even in their dreams they want to get out of this hellish place. With great difficulty, they finally see hope. However, all of this has turned into despair. Thump. 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 More and more people knelt down, tears streaming down their faces. Some cursed, some pounded the ground in anger, and some questioned why the heavens were treating them this way. Many natives, seeing that it was impossible to leave this place, simply took a lot of rewards from Mu Yen and left. Rui Nyang sat on the ground in a daze. The bewildered anticipation in her eyes was gradually replaced by despair. Is she really not coming back? Has our hope been dashed once again? Butcher laughed bitterly. You should have guessed it long ago, right? Who would be willing to carry a bunch of burdens like us? Little Monkey said angrily, that woman is really not a good person. She promised to help us, but she took away my dagger. Bastard, bastard. I shouldn't have trusted her. Mother. The little monkey rushed over to wipe away the tears on Rui Nyang's face. Mother, don't be sad. If that stinky woman doesn't bring you out, I'll bring you out in the future. The next time I see that bitch, I'll definitely beat her up to vent your anger for you, Mother. Oh. Really? I really want to know how you're going to beat me up. The girl's voice, which was like the sound of nature, suddenly rang out, causing the expressions of everyone, who was originally shrouded in a gloomy fog, to freeze. Chapter 3206. Rui Nyang and the others raised their heads in a daze and looked at the figure that slowly appeared from the thick fog. The woman who had been wearing an ugly mask had revealed her true appearance at some point. Even in a dirty place like the gravel hill that was full of dust and stench, her peerless beauty could not be concealed. She had jade bones and ice skin. She was beautiful and enchanting. When she smiled lightly, her peach blossom eyes were full of youth and overflowing with color. The gray fog that separated the two worlds was broken again, and a strong aura of spiritual power blew in. It blew the girl's clothes and long hair, and also woke up the people in the gravel hill. She's back. Someone called out softly, with a cry of confusion and hope. She really came back to save us. Am I dreaming? Can we really get out of the gravel hill? The butcher opened his mouth to say something, but found that his throat seemed to be blocked by something. He could not help but look back at his brothers, only to see that everyone was so excited that they could not control themselves. He was obviously a tall and strong man, but his eyes could not help but turn red. The butcher could not help but look at the drunkard in the wheelchair. He saw that the man's expression was calm as if there were no waves. But when he looked down, he could see that his hands were tightly clenched into fists. The butcher turned his gaze to Rui Nyang. The two looked at each other, and hot tears rolled down from their eyes. The heavens had finally heard their prayers. They had waited for salvation. The little monkey held Rui Nyang's hand tightly, and his eyes were wide open, looking forward without blinking. He did not even realize that his mother was crying. A scene from a long time ago appeared in his mind. At that time, his mother was bullied by a bad man, and he could do nothing but hug his mother and cry. Later, his mother told him, "They will get out. One day, they will get out of this place." The little monkey asked, "Won't mother be bullied by bad people if we get out?" "Yes." "Then when can we get out?" The little monkey remembered that his mother's expression was gloomy for a moment, and then she said with a bit of a trance, "Maybe one day, the gods will hear our prayers and send an envoy to save us." So after that day, the little monkey would pray to the heavens every night, hoping that the gods would quickly send an envoy to save them. However, what awaited him was disappointment that grew with each passing day. After that, the little monkey no longer believed in the existence of God's messenger and savior in this world. However, at this moment, as he looked at the beautiful woman who broke through the thick fog and slowly walked towards him, there was only one sentence in his mind. It turned out that there really was a divine messenger in this world who had come to save them. So, his mother didn't lie to him. Pretty sister. Seeing the figure coming out of the thick fog, little Phoenix happily rushed over, wanting to throw himself into Mayan's arms. However, its movements suddenly stopped. A pair of round eyes fall behind Mayan. There stood a boy who was even more exquisite and adorable than an elf. He was very young, but his expression was ice-cold, and his whole body exuded an awe-inspiring aura. Little Phoenix stared blankly at the little boy, tears slowly gathering in his eyes. Then, she burst into tears and threw herself into the little boy's arms. "Wah, little big brother, you're finally here to see Cho-Cho. Cho-Cho thought you didn't want me anymore. Woo woo woo." Xiao Bao's little face was taut as he rubbed little Phoenix's head. His childish voice carried a rare trace of gentleness. "Thank you, Cho-Cho, for accompanying Nyangqin." Chapter 3207. Little Phoenix was immediately appeased, happily burying his head in Xiao Bao's arms and rubbing it. Although the beautiful sister was also very good, it still loved the big brother the most. Little Phoenix had just rubbed for a while when a furry snow-white ball arched out. The fat rabbit twisted its big buttocks and directly pushed little Phoenix away, occupying the most advantageous position in little Bao's arms. His round, mung bean-like eyes slanted to the side, arrogantly and disdainfully, as if he were declaring his sovereignty. Tears immediately welled up in the little Phoenix's eyes, feeling wronged. However, the fat rabbit had always been domineering, so it didn't dare to argue and could only obediently lie on Xiaobao's shoulder. Buzz buzz buzz. When the fat rabbit came out, the Bixia sword, which had finally recovered its strength after resting for a few days, immediately came over. "Damned rabbit, you only know how to fight for favor all day long. Bullying such a cute little Phoenix, do you have any shame? Isn't it just fighting for favor? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Did I watch so many palace dramas for nothing? Little master, you have to arrange us little brothers in the order of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm a great socialist youth, and it's already very unfair for me to be an artifact spirit. If I can't be the #1 follower, then I definitely won't do it." The fat rabbit howled and bit the Bixia sword with its teeth. "Get lost. The little master loves Bunny the most. There was no other." Xiao Bao, he looked expressionlessly at the little guys making a fuss on him and was about to speak. Suddenly, he felt a weight on his head. A furry little yellow ball landed on his head. Goo goo gee. Gee, gee, gee. Brother. It was Big Brother. Huang Huang finally saw her brother again. "Big Brother, are you guys playing some interesting game?" Huang Huang also wanted to play. Mu Yan looked at her son being hung all over by the brat and revealed a rare bewildered expression. She couldn't help but laugh. She stroked Xiao Bao's head, but there was an expression of watching a good show on her face. She had absolutely no intention of helping her precious son solve his problem. Instead, he slowly walked to the front of the drunkard maniac and said, "I would like to discuss the subsequent arrangements with you." "Please wait a moment," drunkard said in a low voice. Then he struggled to get out of the wheelchair. Yes, he rolled down in a sorry state. With the tendons and veins in his hands and feet broken, he spends a great deal of effort to get himself to properly kneel in front of Mayan. This one is Wei Mian, nicknamed the drunkard lunatic. My cultivation system is that of a battle general. From now on, I would like to request Master's guidance. Mu Yen raises an eyebrow, Master. The drunkard looks up and grins at Mayan, revealing a smile. Yes, Master. We asked Miss June to lend us a hand, so we can't just not give her anything in return. So, for the rest of my life, I will be at Master's disposal. My only request is that Master can allow me to take some time to settle my personal grudges. As soon as Wei Mian finished speaking, Rui Nyang, Butcher, and the rest knelt down as well. Greetings, Master. Mayan crosses her arms over her chest, looking at these people with a smile that isn't a smile. You guys have a good plan. Since I accepted you as my servants, I have to be responsible for your safety and heal your injuries. You still have to clean up your personal grudges. Wei Mian looked straight at Mu Yen, not dodging in the slightest. Even if he is in such a sorry state right now, even crippled, his eyes are brimming with disdainful self-confidence. Mu Yen can't help but wonder where his self-confidence comes from. Chapter 3208. Wei Mian said, "Yes. But I can assure Master that you will not suffer a loss if you accept us as servants." "Oh. Then how are you going to prove it?" As soon as the voice fell, Mu Yen felt a cold aura passing through the air. Before she noticed, this aura began to invade her sea of consciousness. But it was different from the divine sense that wanted to invade her sea of consciousness in previous battles. This energy body was very soothing and warm, and even had a guiding meaning. It made people unconsciously want to accept, tolerate, and then surrender. A battle general. Mu Yen murmured, looking at Wei Mian with a hint of amazement in her eyes. It's really interesting. She had no intention of surrendering at all. But the sea of consciousness within her body began to wrap around Wei Mian's spiritual energy body, analyzing and combing it little by little. She instinctively wanted to assimilate this spiritual body into her own sea of consciousness. Wei Mian suddenly opened his eyes, and the divine sense that he released was almost withdrawn. His eyes were full of shock as he looked at Mu Yen. Even though he already knew that this girl was not simple. How could ordinary people use spiritual power in the gravel hill? How could they casually destroy the barrier that had existed for tens of thousands of years? Even going in and out of the gravel hill was as easy as eating a meal. But these exclamations were far less shocking than when he probed Mu Yan's sea of consciousness at this moment. Was that really the sea of consciousness? It was boundless, with no end in sight. She was clearly a powerful combat cultivator, but her sea of consciousness was 100 times more vast and profound than a battle general like him. If this girl chose to become a battle general, how invincible would she be? Wei Mian stared blankly at Mu Yen, not even hearing what she said. "Boss, what are you still doing?" It wasn't until the butcher pushed him that he suddenly woke up. Turning his head, he saw the ecstatic faces of the butcher and Rui Nyang. "Didn't you hear what Miss June said? She is willing to accept us as her servants." Wei Mian suddenly came back to his senses. A big smile bloomed on his thin face, and he bowed. Wei Mian pays respect to the new master. Rui Nyang pays respect to the new master. The butcher pays respect to the new master. Tens of thousands of years ago, the stairway to heaven broke, destroying the only way for mortals to enter the immortal world. Tens of thousands of cultivators had finally reached the tribulation stage, but they were unable to ascend and could only die of old age on the barren land. It was also at this time that a summoner who could control the divine beast, Bai Zhe, appeared, Lan Xiaozi. Lan Xiaozi used his summoned beasts as fuel and his own body as a vessel to refine a heavenly holy item. In the end, he let his son use the heaven-warping holy artifact refined from his own flesh and blood to poke a hole in the sky. As a result, a large piece of land on the Shushan continent collapsed and floated between the two continents. This was the floating island. Apart from the tens of thousands of tribulation-passing cultivators who came to the floating island with Lan Xiaozi's son, there were many other cultivators. There were also many relatives and friends of the Lan family. These people reproduced, cultivated, and built dynasties, clans, and sects on the floating island. Gradually, this continent developed into a prosperous world that was completely different from the cultivation continent. It was different from the cultivation continent, where there was only spiritual power and immortal qi. The energy distribution on the floating island was 60% spiritual energy, 30% immortal energy, and a mixture of other energies. Therefore, the cultivation speed here was much faster than in the cultivation continent. Chapter 3209. You mean, more than 50% of the cultivators here have reached the golden immortal level? Hearing Di Mingju's words, Mu Yan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air even though she was mentally prepared. Di Mingju put the peeled and tender fruit into her mouth, then lightly said, Hollow immortal, golden immortal, profound immortal, immortal king, immortal venerable, immortal emperor, these are the levels commonly used in the Shushan continent. But the floating island, like the Shushan continent, has its own cultivation and level system. Mu Yan had long known that in the Shushan continent, the first to the 9th rank of Hollow Immortal corresponded to the Shushan continent's fasting stage to the crossing tribulation stage. On the floating island, it is usually divided into the mortal cultivation realm, mysterious life realm, mountain opening realm, earth opening realm, sea splitting realm, and heaven breaking realm. The mortal cultivation realm corresponds to mortals who have yet to form immortal bones, that is, hollow immortals. The mysterious life realm corresponds to the 1st and 2nd rank of golden immortals. The mountain opening realm corresponds to the 3rd and 4th rank of golden immortals. The earth opening realm corresponds to the 5th and 6th rank of golden immortals. The sea splitting realm corresponds to the 7th and 8th rank of golden immortals. The heaven-breaking realm corresponds to the 9th rank of golden immortals. When one reaches the peak of the heaven-breaking realm, that is, the 9th rank of golden immortals, all the bones in the body will be tempered into immortal bones. After enduring the forging of the heavenly tribulation, the immortal bones will be formed, and the body of a profound immortal will be formed. After becoming a profound immortal, I can go to the Shushan continent. Mu Yan asked while sucking the fruit Di Mingju handed her. Feeling the sweetness in her mouth, she praised, delicious. More. Thus, Jun Shangdaran immediately continued to peel the fruit, remove the core, and feed it to his fiancée. He explained, after becoming a profound immortal, the heavenly Tao has tacitly approved that you have the qualification to pass through the space barrier passage to the upper realm. But directly ascending without the help of any spatial treasure will cause harm to the body and soul. So, without my permission, even if you reach the profound immortal realm, you must not open the space barrier passage at will, do you hear me? Mu Yan nodded with a smile, and couldn't help but sigh. I thought I could go to the Shushan continent after ascending. I didn't expect that I would have to come to the floating island. It seems like we can only continue to live separately. Di Mingju's face sinks. Suddenly, he grabbed her and bit her lips heavily. Ben Jun's patience is limited. If you make me stay alone in this room again, be careful that on our wedding night, Ben Jun will settle the score with you with interest. This heartless little girl, don't think that I can't see the schadenfreude in her eyes. Ahem. Mu Yan hurriedly restrained her ridiculing thoughts, sat up, and said, "Actually, I think it's a very good thing to be able to come to the floating island." Di Mingju grinds his teeth. Don't be angry. Listen to me." Mu Yan promptly hooks her arms around a certain person's neck to comfort him. "I've heard about my father, Jun Shiyuan, in the Shuzhen continent." As soon as these words are spoken, the gloominess on Di Mingju's face is swept away as expected. He turned to look at her with a burning gaze. Mayan smiles and says, 20 years ago, he and my mother should have come to the floating island. I just asked Wei Mian about it. The forces of the floating island can be roughly divided into 1 country, 3 sects, 6 great families, and 8 sections. Among these 6 great families, there is a Ning family, and my mother is called Ning Yanxin. Back then, she was taken away by the people of the floating island. And my father should have chased me all the way here after sending me back to the Yanwu continent. Chapter 32:10. The corner of Di Mingju's mouth slowly hooks up into a cold smile. Father-in-law is actually here? Then I really have to pay a proper visit. His mouth says father-in-law, but Di Mingju's expression can simply be said to be gnashing his teeth. Previously, he almost mobilized all the power of the polar domain, turned the entire Shuzhen continent upside down, and still couldn't find any trace of Jun Shiyuan. He didn't expect that this father-in-law, who vainly tried to marry Mayan to someone else, and didn't even ask the reason for the marriage contract, was actually on the floating island. Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, "Father-in-law. Jun Shang, aren't you saying it too smoothly? The son-in-law in my father's heart is someone else." Before he can finish speaking, Mayan has already left with a vigorous stride. Flirting is flirting, but her life is still important. However, Mayan hasn't taken 2 steps when she feels something wrapping around her waist, making her unable to escape. She looks down and sees that her waist is wrapped in a silk thread that's thinner than a hair. Under the light of the candlelight in the room, it emits gold, silver, and blue lights. Mayan can't help but reach out and touch it, but finds that these silk threads feel very strange. It's cold to the touch, but her fingertips don't feel cold at all. On the contrary, there's a kind of warmth. Under her gentle touch, it's incredibly smooth. Oh! As she's touching it, she hears a man's low, stifled groan. Mayan looks up in astonishment, and her fingertips make Di Mingju's ears slightly redden. A pair of ice-blue eyes seem to be tainted with a gentle and charming color. Immediately after, her waist tightens, and she's pulled to Di Mingju's side. Mayan doesn't panic at all. Instead, she grins and touches the silk thread on her waist. "What is this?" Di Mingju says in a hoarse voice, "Don't touch it. That's my natal magic weapon." Natal magic weapon. This time, Mayan is even more surprised. In the end, what kind of natal magic weapon could have such a thread-like shape? Moreover, why does he have this kind of reaction when she touches Di Mingju's natal magic weapon? Mayan is full of curiosity, and she can't help but take out her 7 absolute sword. It becomes small, and she gently rubs it against the blue-gold thread on her waist. She clearly didn't react at all. Jun Mayan. Di Mingju presses down on her hands, gnashing his teeth in anger. "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Mu Yan has an innocent look on her face. "Deliberately what?" A sly smile appeared in his eyes. She's not a fool, she only needs to look at Di Mingju's reaction to know. His natal magic treasure should be very special. It should not be casually touched by others, especially by him. Otherwise, Mayan smiles like a little fox, her fingertips gently caressing those smooth, ice-cold threads. "Di Mingju, you're being unreasonable. You're the one who wrapped your natal magic treasure around me. If you don't want me to touch it, you can take it back." Di Mingju's Adam's apple bobbed up and down, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He says softly, "I won't take it back, because I want to feel a little more, Mayan, by my side." Mayan's hand pauses, then the playful smile on her face can't help but turn into a bone-chilling gentleness. "Hey, you're breaking the rules. Who did you learn how to say such sweet nothings?" Diming-ju suddenly pushes her away, faintly saying, "Now say it again. Do Ben-jun have the qualifications to call you father-in-law?" Pfft. Mayan couldn't help but laugh. "Yes, of course you do." The petty and jealous Jun Shangdaran really hasn't changed a bit. Chapter 32:11. After laughing, Mayan slowly restrains the smile on her face. Her expression is solemn as she looks at the man in front of her. She enunciates each word. "Diming-ju, leave this matter to me, okay? I will find my biological father and ask him to cancel the engagement. Then, I will personally introduce the person I like to him." Seeing that Diming-ju is about to speak, Mu Yen covers his mouth. Her peach blossom eyes are like rippling water, just like how you would handle the troubles around you, and not let me suffer any grievances. I don't want you to suffer any grievances. This is my problem, and I should deal with it myself. What if he doesn't agree? It went without saying who he was. After Diming-ju asks this, he doesn't wait for Mayan to answer, and the corner of his mouth hooks up into a cold arc. "No, there's no such possibility. Ben-jun will definitely make him agree. If he was really stubborn, he would just beat him up in secret until he agreed." Just as Mu Yen is about to speak, Diming-ju's complexion suddenly changes. A blood-red light shines from his palm. Then, the tricolored thread that was wrapped around her waist retracted. Diming-ju frowns, his expression gloomy. Mu Yan's heart thumped. What happened? When Diming-ju looks at her, the gloominess between his brows fades away, turning into gentleness. "It's nothing, I have to go back to the Shushan continent. It'll probably be several months before I can come back." Hearing this, Mu Yen felt a sense of loss in her heart. Then, he couldn't help but knit his brows. "You said before that the stairway to heaven broke and the space barrier passage collapsed. Diming-ju, how did you and Xiao Bao come to the floating island?" Her hand caressed the space between Diming-ju's eyebrows where a red mark had just appeared. "Did you use some method to harm yourself?" It has to be said that Mayan's intuition is quite keen. Even Diming-ju's expression stiffens for a moment. But very quickly, he revealed a faint disdainful smile, held her hand, and said, "It is indeed a little troublesome, which is why I said that the next time I come would be a few months later. But Yen, aren't you looking down on Ben-jun too much? This isn't the first time Ben-jun has forcefully torn apart space." Mayan slightly narrows her eyes at him, not knowing whether she believes him or not. Diming-ju can't help but laugh as he pulls her into his arms. "All right, I admit that it will indeed damage some spirit essence, but it's not a big deal." After a pause, he says in a hoarse voice, Yen, don't worry, I absolutely won't abandon you like Xiaobao's biological father and let you be lonely and depressed." Mu Yen, she looked at the man in front of her with a complicated expression. She hesitated to tell him the truth. Mu Yen really didn't expect that the words, "I only love Xiao Bao's biological father," back then would actually become a curse. Was she the one who was caught in a cocoon of her own making? Mayan coughs lightly. After a long while, she says, "In fact, Xiao Bao's and my biological father isn't." However, before she could finish speaking, she is interrupted by Diming-ju's cold face. "Don't mention him. Mu Yen, you were the one who brought it up first." Only the prefectural officials were allowed to set fires, but the common people were not allowed to light lamps. Diming-ju's forehead brightens again, a cold glint flashes through his eyes. He reaches out and presses the back of Mayan's neck. He lowers his head and touches her lips. "Protect yourself, don't flirt around, before he could finish his words, the man's figure is already slowly fading away. The door to the room is pushed open with a bang, and Xiaobao rushes in. Seeing Di Mingju's figure slowly disappearing, he couldn't help but shout and rush over, "Daddy!" Chapter 32:12. Xiaobao pounces on empty air and almost falls to the ground. Mu Yan hugs him in her arms. His little face is taut and his eyes are slightly red. He looks up at Mu Yan. "Nyangqin, why did Daddy leave without saying goodbye? Is he angry with Xiaobao?" Mu Yan rarely sees his aggrieved look. She can't help but smile and rub his head. How could that be? Daddy has to go back to the polar domain to deal with something. He will be back in a few months at most. Xiaobao nods, but he is still a little listless. Only when Mu Yan takes him into the Tian Mo Qin space and uses the Shin musician skills to construct the stellar fantasy, letting him play with the fat rabbit and the others, does his mood slowly improve. This time, the astral fantasy realm that Mu Yan constructed was the playground that Bai Xie described. Mu Yan doesn't know what a playground is. But Bai Xie said that in their time and space, the playground was every child's favorite. Slides, merry-go-rounds, roller coasters. Mu Yan spent a lot of effort to recreate these scenes with the realm of stars. Then, it's just as Bai Xie said. The little guys play like crazy. Even Xiaobao, who has always been calm and not like a child, has a pair of ice blue eyes that look like stars falling all over the sky. The Tian Mo Qin space is filled with cheerful laughter. Mu Yan leisurely plucks the strings, and her eyes can't help but fall on Xiaobao. Xiaobao is now 7 years old. But he still looks like a 5-year-old child. He hasn't grown much. Her mind unconsciously recalls what Bailey Yinlu said at that time, natural immortal body, can't live past 10 years old. It stands to reason that Xiaobao has now left the Yinwu continent, that barren world. It's impossible for him to face the tribulation of 10 years old again. But now, looking at Xiaobao's small body and face, Mu Yan's heart unconsciously raises a hidden worry. Before this, she never seriously thought about who Xiaobao's biological father is. Or, she has been avoiding thinking about it. Because even if it's separated by a previous life and this life, that memory of the past is really not good for her. She used to try to distinguish Xiaobao from his biological father. She doesn't want to add even a little bit of her hatred for the man who violated her on Xiaobao. But unknowingly, this hatred and stubbornness seemed to have slowly faded. Perhaps too much time had passed, and the pain, humiliation, and hatred of the past had slowly dissipated with the passage of time. Or maybe it was because she was too happy right now. So much so that when he thought of the nightmarish memories, there was no more heart-wrenching pain. Also because it was diluted. That was why she could think rationally about the bloodline flowing in Xiaobao's body. Xiaobao was born with an immortal physique. In a world like the Yinwu continent, where the vital energy of heaven and earth is heterogeneous, it can leave behind the purest immortal body in the world. That man's cultivation must be very high. But why would such a person appear in the Yinwu continent? Also, why did he lock himself up in that dark cave? Too much time has passed, Mayan can't remember many details. Only that pair of deep blue eyes that were dyed red with bloodlust was something that she could still remember clearly to this day. Who was that man? If one day, something really happened to Xiaobao's immortal physique, did she have to find this person in order to save Xiaobao? Should she tell Di Mingju about this? But when he thinks about letting Di Mingju know about his unbearable past. Chapter 32:13. Mu Yan suddenly closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and presses her fingers on the zither strings again. The Shin musician skill, cloud dispersing mist, launches. The soothing and melodious sound of the zither slowly dispels the remaining fear and demonic barrier in her heart. Chi Huang swaggers down from the roller coaster, no longer participating in the children's games. Instead, he goes to Mu Yan's side. Isn't it just a man? Why are you so sad? Hearing Chi Huang's sour voice, Mu Yan comes back to her senses. What's wrong? Seeing her pale complexion, Chi Huang restrains his arrogant expression and asks nervously. Mu Yan shakes her head, lightly saying, "It's nothing." "As you said, do you miss my man?" "Damn." Chi Huang curses, flustered and exasperated. "If you can't bear to part with him, you can follow Di Mingju to the Shushan continent." "What are you still doing on the floating island?" Mu Yan chuckles. "Didn't you hear what Di Mingju said? Now that the stairway to heaven is broken, and the space barrier passage has collapsed, tell me how to get there. What's more?" She pauses, then says, "On this floating island, I really still have a lot of things that I haven't finished yet." Chi Huang curls his lips. I know. Find your cheap fiancé to cancel the engagement, and at most add those old matters of your fellow apprentices, more than that." Mu Yan interrupts him, reaching out to grab the air, and a map appears in her palm. "If I'm not mistaken, some of the materials needed to repair the Tian Mo Chin should have fallen on the floating island." Saying that, she hands the map to Chi Huang. She sees that the map that originally showed the Shushan continent has now changed. The whole map has been divided into two parts at some point, with the words "floating island" and "Shushan continent" written on it. Only, the map of the floating island is brightly colored, and the mountains and rivers are very clear. There's also a white circle drawn on the periphery of the entire continent, emitting a faint luster. The map of the Shushan continent is dim, blurry, and incomplete, making it impossible to see what's drawn on it. Ha! Chi Huang stares blankly, grabs the map and studies it carefully. After looking at it for a while, he can't help but curse. The Shen music sect is a group of idiots. They actually threw away all the materials needed to repair the 7 strings separately. Chi Huang said a long time ago that the Tian Mo Chin needs to be repaired 3 times. The first time is to repair the Guqin spirit. As the Tian Mo Chin's device spirit, 7 brilliance begins to appear in the space. The second time was to repair the zither. The profound heaven orb, scarlet blaze metal, and profound ghost wood were thrown into the antiquity tower and the woodfern secret realm respectively. The third time was to repair the strings. 7 strings, corresponding to 7 kinds of materials. This is also the last restoration of the Tian Mo Chin. When the third restoration is complete, the Tian Mo Chin will be able to advance to its complete form, restoring its heroic bearing that made the creatures of the 3 realms tremble with fear at the mere mention of its name. But it's very clear that repairing the Tian Mo Chin for the 3rd time is very difficult. This was because when Bailey Yinlu was escaping, not only did she discard the repair materials for the 7 zither strings separately, but she also threw them away. Furthermore, they were abandoned in 2 different worlds, the floating island and the Shushan continent. 7 Brilliant said with lingering fear, "Fortunately, that stupid chicken did have some luck. Sending you to the floating island was really the right choice." Just as it came down from the merry-go-round, the little chick hears Chi Huang mention it. It can't help but chuckle as it rushes over. It rolls from Chi Huang's embrace to Mu Yan's, and from Mu Yan's embrace to Chi Huang's, letting out strange laughter from time to time. Chapter 32:14. Mu Yan couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. This stupid chicken, if it wasn't for its high luck, it would have already been stewed. Every time Chi Huang bullied it, it would run over crying and complain. In the end, the fish's memory was completely forgotten as soon as it turned its head, and it pounced on Chi Huang while shouting, "Brother Red Pants." Chi Huang picked up the stupid chicken and pressed it on the map. Come, pick a random point and tell me where the zither string repair materials are. The little chicken tilted its head, its big eyes blinking, and the ahog on its head stood up. Then, it opened its sharp beak and spat out a bubble. It floated to Chi Huang's face, and with a pop, it burst and turned into water. Well, a chicken's saliva. Mu Yen couldn't hold back. Poochie. Bald chicken, you're dead. Goo-goo-goo, woof woof woof. Aw aw aw. Mom, help. Brother, help. Brother Red Pants is going to kill Huang Huang. Jun Mu Yen, don't laugh. As soon as Mu Yen left the space, she heard a hurried knock on the door. Then, the little monkey's anxious voice came from outside the door. Miss, my mother and the drunkard lunatic have woken up, please go and see. Wei Mian actually woke up so soon. As soon as Mu Yen left the room, countless gazes immediately turned to look at him. What she saw were messy buildings and piles of stones and wood everywhere. This was originally the encampment of the Mountain Split sect. It was very close to the gravel hill. According to Wei Mian, after bringing these people out of the gravel hill, Mu Yan had them build a town suitable for tens of thousands of people to live in. However, the people in the gravel hill were just a group of ordinary people without cultivation. How could it be easy to build a town? Moreover, these people were not so much surrendering to Mu Yan at the moment. It would be better to say that Wei Mian's general skill had branded their sea of knowledge. They couldn't betray Mu Yan in a short time, otherwise they would be punished by the explosion of their sea of knowledge. Although they couldn't betray or leave, these people would be slack. Some of them even had the idea of returning to the gravel hill rather than staying here. The strong desire to return to the floating island and shake the world had long been erased in the past few days. Because they discovered that no matter how much they absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, no matter how many doctors they secretly went to the neighboring towns to seek treatment from, and no matter how many natural treasures they ate, they still couldn't absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Trash was still trash, there was no improvement at all. No matter how beautiful and noble the floating island was, people without cultivation like them could only be like rats in the sewers, trembling with fear and hiding for the rest of their lives. Otherwise, he would die a tragic death. On the other hand, at least they were still alive at Gravel Hill. Why is it so noisy over there? The she-devil hasn't appeared for a few days. What is she doing today? Haven't you heard? The female demon treated drunkard and the others. Those people were crippled, including the prostitute named Ruin Yang, who fell into a coma after receiving treatment. Everyone thought that they were dead for sure. TSK, I didn't expect them to be so lucky and actually come back to life. Cure. Treat what? Don't tell me you can reattach those crippled limbs. Ha ha ha, this statement drew a burst of laughter from the crowd. Stop joking, okay? The tendons and veins in the hands and feet are all broken, and it's not just broken, it's been broken for 10 or 20 years. Even if it's on the floating island, those famous spirit masters wouldn't be able to cure it. Chapter 32:15. I admit that the she-devil's combat power and array skills are amazing, but her medical skills. Hee, how is it possible for such a young girl? I think the she-devil is just bored and tormented the drunkard and the others for fun. Didn't the drunkard lunatic and the other cripples almost die from the torture? While gloating, everyone stopped what they were doing and squeezed into the room where the drunkard and the others were recuperating. Because they were not having a good time. Therefore, these people wanted to see others in a worse state than them. However, the person walking at the front was just about to squeeze in. Suddenly, a large bony hand pressed down on his head and pushed him out. A powerful force hit him in the face. The people at the door groaned and flew out dozens of meters, piling up and falling on the ground. Damn, who pushed me? Someone cursed and looked up. When he saw the scene in front of him, he was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out. 2. Butcher. Tai 2, old goo. You, how can you stand up? The person called Tai 2 was a man with a leopard head and round eyes. When his limbs were broken, it was not obvious. Now that he stood up, he was tall and strong. His head was almost touching the door. Hearing everyone's shocked question, the man could not help but laugh out loud. You think I can only stand up? As soon as he finished speaking, Tai 2 casually slapped. A loud boom came from afar. Broken. Broken. That's iron fir wood that can't be easily cut with a knife. And he didn't even get close. He just waved his hand lightly, and the thick wood was broken. My God, how did he do that? The natives of Gravel Hill were shocked. They had never seen such a magical martial art. However, those who were even more shocked than them were those who had abandoned their cultivation for various reasons and were eventually thrown into the rocky mound. You can use spiritual power. How is that possible? Weren't your meridians and dantian destroyed before? Tai 2 sneered, not destroyed. How is that possible? Didn't anyone check if your dantian was completely destroyed when you were thrown into Gravel Hill? There was silence. Of course not. It was not that there were no people on the floating island who had lost their cultivation, but because there was someone protecting them, they could live well. Those who were thrown into the rocky mound were either lonely people or people who had been deliberately set up. Therefore, the possibility of his dantian not being destroyed was almost zero. But since their dantians were destroyed, why could they still? After Tai 2 and the others finished speaking, they seemed to be a little confused. More than 10 people came out of the house in a single file. Every single one of them had their limbs intact, and their footsteps were steady. Their eyes were blurred as they muttered something. Then, he began to attack like Tai 2. Boom boom boom. After a few explosions, the simple buildings that had been built with great difficulty were smashed into pieces. However, no one cared about that at all. That was because everyone was looking at Butcher and the rest in a daze, rubbing their eyes over and over again as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. As a matter of fact, Butcher and the others weren't any better than these people. Chapter 32:16. Scholar, quick, come and pinch me or stab me in the leg. I wonder if I'm still in a dream. Ouch, damn, you poisonous scholar, you really stabbed me. Ha 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 ha, my spiritual power is back. I never thought that I would be able to stand up and restore my cultivation in my lifetime. Aw aw aw. Villainous heavens, have you finally opened your eyes? The dozen or so people roar loudly, venting. Some people look up to the sky and laugh, while others curse and vent their spiritual energy. Some people laugh and laugh, their eyes already red. The butcher stares blankly at his brothers who are almost crazy, feeling a lump in his throat. It's been several days since they came out from the Gravel Hill. But she still doesn't feel real. She always feels like her feet are stepping on clouds, and her soul is still trapped in a dream. Did they really meet Miss June in the Gravel Hill? Is there really someone in this world who can break the barrier of the Gravel Hill? Is everything that happened at this moment really not a delusion born from their desperate situation? Until, inside the house, a girl in snow-white clothes slowly walks out of the door. Following behind her is Ruin Yang, who has changed into a cyan dress, and Wei Mian, who has shaved his beard. The scene is quiet for a moment, then a raging clamor breaks out. Miss June, what's going on? Who healed their hands and feet? How can an abandoned dantian be restored? Miss June, tell me quickly. Can my dantian also be restored? Mu Yan curls up her lips and faintly glances at Wei Mian. The man with unkempt hair and dirty face in the gravel hill has shaved off his beard. He looks like a young man in his 30s. His eyebrows are thick and black, his eyes are deep, and his cheeks are slightly sunken. His words and actions are obviously sloppy, casual and unruly, but there's an inexplicable awe-inspiring righteousness all over his body. Receiving Mu Yan's instructions, Wei Mian smiles faintly, his eyes slightly narrowing. The next moment, the noisy crowd lets out a muffled groan. In a split second, their pale faces calm down. Wei Mian is about to order them to kneel before Mu Yan. With a leap, Mu Yan leaped onto the roof and looked down at the tens of thousands of motley crew below. That's right. She was used to the strict orders of the Nether Fire Army and the strong armors of the soldiers. Although there were many of them and their original cultivation was high, she really looked down on them. In her eyes, these people couldn't even compare to Liang Chen's army and Qing Chang's army. But when he thought about Seven and eldest senior brother's background and what Wei Mian had said, she still said in a clear voice, "I can answer your questions now." Mu Yan's finger passes over Wei Mian, Butcher, and the others. I was the one who connected the tendons of their hands and feet. Their dantians were also repaired by me using a secret medical technique. Whoosh! Although they had already expected it, hearing Mu Yan personally admit it, the tens of thousands of people below still couldn't help but explode. Can it really repair the dantian? Then can I also recover my cultivation? If I can cultivate again, so what if I have to serve this woman? Jun Mayan, I'm willing to recognize you as my master like Butcher and the others. I beg you to heal my injuries. That's right. At worst, we'll submit to you and become your subordinates. Mayan sneers, her face full of ridicule. Aren't you mistaken about something? Chapter 32:17. Did I beg you to be my subordinates? The noisy crowd below goes quiet. Mu Yan continues to speak unhurriedly. I'm not interested in a group of good-for-nothing subordinates with no loyalty at all. If you want me to heal your injuries, you either have to show enough value or pay enough loyalty. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. The faces of the people below are all colorful. Jun Mu Yan, don't be too arrogant. Before I entered the gravel hill, I was at the 9th rank of the mortal cultivation realm, higher than you. If I wasn't framed, do you really think I would be willing to serve a little girl like you? Damn, you actually said we're good for nothings. You smelly woman, no fart. When I was galloping unhindered, your hair wasn't even fully grown yet. Wei Mian knits his brows, leaps up and lands beside Mu Yan, about to speak. But he sees Mu Yan wave her hand, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a smile that isn't a smile. Oh? So you think that if you recover your cultivation, you'll be stronger than me? Several people below coldly snort. Although they don't speak, the contempt and resentment in their expressions are obvious. Mu Yan turns her hand over, and the Tian Mo Qin floats in front of her. All right, since that's the case, I'll give you a chance. Slender fingers, as white as jade, slowly pluck the strings. The melodious sound of the Qin slowly lingers between heaven and earth. The realm of stars launches. Wei Mian looks at Mu Yan in shock, the admiration and awe in his eyes growing heavier. This little girl, no, how many secrets does his new master have? At such a young age, with a cultivation of the mortal cultivation realm, she has actually mastered 4 domains. As the illusionary reality of the realm of stars shrouds the area. The few people who had just spoken up to provoke Mu Yan are shocked to find that their bodies have begun to surge with spiritual power. But, without waiting for them to go wild with joy, they hear Mu Yan saying indifferently, "Don't be happy too early, the cultivation that you've recovered at this time is only an illusion that's infinitely close to reality in my domain." Once the domain is withdrawn, your body will return to its original state, unless you receive treatment. Everyone is shocked, and there's no longer any contempt in their eyes as they look at Mu Yen. They already knew that this woman is powerful, but they didn't expect that even her domain is powerful to this extent. But there were still a few people who proudly walked forward, looking at Mu Yen with unkind eyes. All of these people had reached the tribulation passing stage. The first to speak was a middle-aged man with a long and narrow face. He casually cupped his fists towards Mu Yen, straightened his neck and said, "I'm Qing Jialin. A few years ago, I was the leader of a small mercenary team. I'm at the peak of the mortal cultivation realm. I'd like to learn from you." On the path of cultivation, the peak of the mortal cultivation realm was already at the level of being able to trigger the heavenly tribulation. Even on the floating island, such strength was not to be underestimated. Therefore, when everyone heard this, they were shocked at first, and then immediately revealed expressions of watching a good show. Mu Yen, however, has an indifferent expression, lacking interest. "I'm not interested in your past. Are you going to come at me one by one or all at once? What the hell? Wasn't this woman a little too arrogant?" She was indeed very powerful, but no matter how powerful she was only at the mortal cultivation stage 9. And of the people who attacked, which one of them wasn't at the 9th rank of the mortal cultivation realm? Moreover, Qing Jialin was still at the peak of the mortal cultivation realm. Where did this woman get the confidence to think that she could fight against so many? Everyone's faces were ugly. Chapter 32:18. Qing Jialin sneers, "Ignorant child, ignorant woman, I hope you can still be arrogant under my flaming gale palm." Mayan turns her wrist and the 7 absolute swords slowly appear. However, before she can make a move, a small figure blocks in front of her. It was a little doll carved out of jade. Its skin was pink and white, and its ice blue eyes were like sparkling and translucent sapphires. The whole person is as lovely as an angel who has fallen into the world by mistake. But his little face is taut, and his whole body exudes a cold and oppressive pressure. At first glance, people almost forget that this is just a child. "Nyangqin, you don't need to teach these people a lesson, Xiao Bao can do it for you." The crisp and childish voice says words that are completely arrogant and look down on everyone. Everyone is stunned at first, then the scene bursts into laughter. Did my ears deceive me? This baby actually said that he will teach us a lesson for his mother. Ha ha ha, little baby, have you weaned yet? Don't tell me that you still wet the bed at night. I didn't expect that the female devil to have a son at such a young age. This baby is really beautiful, but I didn't expect him to be even more arrogant than the female devil. Qing Jialin sneers, "Miss June, don't let your son get in the way. If you want to fight, fight quickly." Mayan looks down at Xiao Bao. She suddenly leans back and casually sits on the roof. The corner of her mouth slowly hooks up into a faint smile. "Xiao Bao, don't be too ruthless with these uncles. If you hurt them, it won't be easy for Nyangqin to cure them." Xiao Bao nods with a taut face. He raises his hand and the Bixia sword, which is almost as tall as his body, appears in front of him. The 5 or 6-year-old baby is holding a sword that is almost as tall as him. The whole person looks soft and cute. No matter how you look at it, it's so cute that it has nothing to do with fighting. The people below laugh even more crazily. Is June Mayan's brain broken? Does she really want this baby to come out and fight? Is she really his mother? She's so heartless that she even wants to kill her own son. Even Wei Mian can't help but be stunned. Looking at the little baby who can't even hold the sword firmly, he hesitates. "Miss, if it's inconvenient for you to fight, it's better to let this subordinate come down." Butcher, Tai Tu, and the others also shouted, "That's right. If anyone dares to be disrespectful to you, we'll beat them up until their father can't recognize them." However, Mu Yan said indifferently, "Don't underestimate my family, Xiao Bao. It's more than enough to deal with this mob." Qing Jialin calmly said, "Jun Mian, are you looking down on us?" Mu Yan, "Whether or not he is looking down on me, won't we know after we fight?" Qing Jialin and the other cultivators couldn't bear it anymore. They roared and fiercely pounced towards the roof. Of course, their target isn't Xiao Bao, but Mayan. Although most of the people in the gravel hill were outlaws, they would not go as far as to lay their hands on a child. However, before they could get close to Mayan, a terrifying sword light soared into the sky. Apart from Qing Jialin, everyone else was thrown to the ground. The little boy was floating in the air with a long sword in his hand. He pointed the tip of his sword at Qing Jialin, his expression cold and disdainful. "I've said it before, you're not qualified to fight against my mother." "Shit. Fuck me." Those cultivators who were thrown to the ground were practically Spartans. Chapter 32:19. Just now, when the sword energy attacked, they were thrown to the ground from a high altitude. The most frightening thing was that the sword energy contained a terrible pressure. It made them unable to resist, and the fear of submitting rose in their hearts. And this kind of pressure was actually being emitted by a 6-year-old child. Mu Yan slowly sat up straight, looking at the little figure fighting with Qing Jialin. The expression on her face was gratified, proud, sour, and distressed. She knew that Xiao Bao grew up very quickly. But it was still faster than she expected. After half an hour, the battle came to an end. Although no one else joined in the battle, only Qing Jialin fought against Xiao Bao. But Xiao Bao won in the end. A child won against a mighty expert at the peak of the crossing calamity stage. There was a deathly silence in the hall. Only Xiao Bao withdrew the evil warding sword and flew back to Mu Yan's side. He raised his head, a pair of big ice blue eyes flashing with dazzling light, as if he was looking forward to something. Mu Yan looked at the small wounds on Xiao Bao with some distress. But she didn't show any worry or sadness. Instead, she stretched out her hand and gently pressed his little head. "Xiao Bao is amazing, you can help Nyangqin in the future." "Yeah." Although his little face was still expressionless, a joyful and excited smile bloomed in his big eyes. Xiao Bao nodded heavily, then threw himself into Mu Yan's arms. This was his long-lost mother's recognition and praise. Xiao Bao liked it very much. The little monkey below was next to Rui Nyang, looking at the little boy in Mu Yan's arms. His eyes revealed a look of envy and worship. "Little Master," Nyangqin said to call this little baby Little Master. "If one day, he could be as strong as the Little Master, that would be great." Mu Yan gave Xiao Bao an elixir to recover from his injuries. Then she let the phantom doppelganger stop playing and cancel the illusion created by the realm of stars. In an instant, the spiritual power that filled the body completely disappeared. It was like the end of a beautiful dream. Everyone's face showed a disappointed and regretful expression. Only Qing Jialin stared blankly at Mu Yan and Xiao Bao. Suddenly bending one knee, he crawled and knelt on the ground. "Qing Jialin, am willing to follow Miss, obey your orders, and never regret. I hope Miss will give me this opportunity." The other crossing tribulation stage cultivators, who had experienced Xiao Bao's power, also came to their senses and knelt down to swear an oath. This time, there was no longer any grievance or dissatisfaction in their hearts. There was only reverence. Indeed, the strong preyed on the weak in Shattered Rock Hill. It was cruel and cold. However, it was precisely because of this cruel living environment that these people believed that the strong ruled. Mu Yan smiles and looks at Wei Mian. "General Wei, do you think these people are qualified to be your soldiers?" Wei Mian was taken aback, his expression dazed for a moment. How many years had it been since anyone called him General Wei? But very quickly, a smile blossomed on his face as he glanced at Qing Jialin and the others. Barely passable, but you can be considered the best of the best. Just make do with it. His tone was even more disgusted with this group of rabble than she was. Mayan can't help but laugh, but she still calls out the Tian Mo Qin. The sound of the zither rang out, and the art of yellow was launched. Then, all the people at Gravel Hill witnessed a miraculous medical skill. The treatment had clearly lasted for 12 hours. Chapter 32:20. Everyone waited from dawn to dusk, but no one left during this period. No one even made a sound. Finally, the treatment is over. Qing Jialin's face is pale at this time, and the pain from his dantian makes his body twitch uncontrollably. However, he feels spiritual power. It's not an illusion, it's not a dream, but he really feels the spiritual power surging in his dantian. Tears pour out of his eyes without warning. Qing Jialin embarrassedly wipes them away, and when he turns his head, he finds that the cultivators around him are also in tears, all sorts of feelings welling up in their hearts. He stares at the beautiful girl on the roof, and then can't help but mutter, "This time, I can't not give my all and pledge my loyalty to her." After saying that, he can't help but burst into a big smile. From this day onwards, the future of these hopeless wastes has completely changed. After this day, the construction speed of the entire town has increased by more than 10 times. It's not just the cultivators of the original floating island. It's the natives of the Gravel Hill. After seeing the two brothers Guadapeng and Guorping take the molding spirit pill, refined by Mayan and finally possess spiritual roots, each and every one of them is even more enthusiastic than those foreign cultivators. In the following month, Mayan cultivates her swordsmanship and magical abilities. According to the list submitted by Wei Mian, she treats the injuries of these people one by one and reconstructs their bones. She doesn't know what this Wei Mian used to do. He seems to be very handy in building a powerful army. And those people under him. The butcher, Tai Tu, Old Gu, the scholar, every single one of them look like an ordinary boorish man. However, when they recover, even Mayan can't help but be speechless when they display their talents. Training the army, arranging logistics, and establishing a complete ranking and contribution system. In just a short month, the appearance of these tens of thousands of mobs has undergone earth-shaking changes. If Mayan's previous Netherflame army could have such strong strength and tacit understanding because of their common belief. The army on the floating island is completely built by Wei Mian through professional, overbearing, and coercive means. Wei Mian reports the recent situation of training and the construction of the town to Mayan. His brows are slightly wrinkled. Mayan looks up at him. "What? Is there any problem?" Wei Mian scratched his head and sighed helplessly. Most of the aborigines of Crushed Stone Hill really don't have any talent for cultivation. Although Miss used the spirit molding pill to reconstruct most of their spiritual roots. However, I can only reach the 3rd or 4th stage of the mortal cultivation realm. Oh, the Anidia realm that Miss mentioned. The limitations are still too great. There are far too many people here who are just here to make up the numbers. With such an army, if this subordinate is given some time to train, it won't be difficult for them to defeat a second-rate sect or family, but if they were to face the 6 great families or the 8 great sects, I'm afraid we won't even have a 50% chance of winning. Thump. The spirit fruit in Mu Yan's mouth falls down. She sorted out her thoughts and looked at Wei Mian in disbelief. "You're saying that there's no difficulty in beating the second-rate clans and sects of the floating islands?" If she remembered correctly, the second-rate clans and sects on the floating island weren't something a mere 18th-rate mountain split sect could compare to. Inside, there had to be at least an Earth Creation Realm expert, which was a 5th stage Golden Immortal or above. The feelings of the Mysterious Life Realm and Mountain Opening Realm were innumerable. Chapter 32:21. The cultivation levels of the floating island are divided into Mortal Cultivation Realm, Mysterious Life Realm, Mountain Opening Realm, Earth Opening Realm, Sea Splitting Realm, Heaven Breaking Realm. Mayan hasn't even stepped into the Mysterious Life Realm. She believes that she absolutely doesn't have the ability to fight against an Earth Opening Realm expert alone. And in Wei Mian's group, Butcher and Scholar have the highest cultivation, reaching the high level of the Earth Opening Realm. But their injuries were also very serious. Even if Mayan used Qi Huang to treat them for a few days, she could only barely recover half of their strength. To fully recover, it would take at least half a year to recuperate with medicine. As for the others, there are only 2 or 3 people whose cultivation has reached the Mysterious Life Realm. With such an army that doesn't even have a high-level cultivator, can they attack a second-rate sect? Mayan looks at Wei Mian with a strange look in her eyes. This guy can't be bragging because he wants to show off, right? As if he has seen through Mayan's thoughts. Wei Mian smiles. Miss, what kind of existence do you think the king level and above are? Except for the experts above the Earth Opening Realm, we can't trap or kill them. As for the others, once they fall into my battle formation, I can make them unable to escape even if they grow wings. Of course, the army controlled by the general is not invincible. If the cultivation level of the Spirit Master reaches or even exceeds the Sea-Splitting Realm, then it is possible to destroy the entire army with their own strength. Mayan blinks. Although what you said is very reasonable, why do I still feel like it's a fantasy? It's useless to say more. In the future, if there is a chance to let Miss experience it, you will know. Wei Mian says confidently. But then he can't help but frown and sigh. It's a pity that their aptitude is too poor. Who said that poor aptitude can't be improved? Mayan's smile carries a bit of craftiness. Wei Mian suddenly widens his eyes. You mean you have a way to improve their spirit root talent? Mayan raises her hand and snaps her fingers. A thin figure immediately comes in. As soon as he sees Mayan, he immediately kneels down. Guorping greets Miss. Wei Mian subconsciously glances at Guorping with his divine sense, and almost jumps up in shock. At least 1/3 of the impurities in your spirit root have been removed. How did you do it? Guorping scratched his head. I listened to Miss play the zither for a while, then fell asleep. When I woke up, I found that my cultivation speed had increased. Miss. He suddenly turns his head and looks at Mu Yen with starry eyes. Miss, you're really amazing, I want to listen to the zither again. Oh right, can I let my brother and little sister listen together? Mayan waves her hand to let this silly boy leave. Wei Mian stared at her blankly for a long time before asking, Miss, how much time do you need for them to be reborn? The level of rebirth has always been one of Mayan's fastest Shin musician skills. It was to improve the talents of the Nether Flame army and increase their cultivation in a short period of time. Later, with the advancement of the 9 stars and the moon, all the Shin musician skills directly increased by 3 stars. As for rebirth, which was already at 2 stars, it was now at the maximum of 4 stars, close to 5 stars. Therefore, the power that the rebirth could display now was naturally far from what it could be compared to when it was in the cultivation continent. Thus, Mu Yen thought for a moment and said, it shouldn't be a problem for 100 or 200 people to be reborn in 2 hours. Chapter 32:22. Thump. This time, it was Wei Mian's turn to almost fall on the ground. At this time, the way he looks at Mu Yen is no longer like he's looking at a powerful little girl, but rather like he's looking at a heaven-defying monster. Miss, are you really from the cultivation continent? Mu Yen didn't hide this from Wei Mian and Rui Nyang. However, she did not mention the identities of her master, Little Chi, and eldest senior brother for the time being. Wei Mian sighed. This subordinate heard that the cultivation continent is a much more barren place than the floating islands. This subordinate really can't imagine how such a world could give birth to monstrous geniuses like you and Little Master. Mayan smirks. In just one short month, a motley crew that's like scattered sand has been forged into an army that has just begun to take shape. Moreover, with such an army, he dares to say that fighting a second-rate sect or family wouldn't be a problem. I'm the one who's curious about General Wei's background. Wei Mian knelt on the ground. Please forgive me for not being able to tell you my true identity, but I promise that I will never betray you in this life. Seeing that he was unwilling to speak, Mu Yan did not insist and waved her hand to let him leave. Before leaving, Wei Mian suddenly turned around and asked, "By the way, miss, may I know the name of our newly built city?" "A name?" Mayan gently caresses the Tian Mo Chin on the table. After pondering for a moment, she slowly spits out 2 words, Xiaoyao. "Let's call it Liberty City. Long live this life and night, free and unfettered forever." Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior sister, fifth senior brother, seventh senior brother, little martial uncle, will you come to the floating island? If he came and heard this name, he would definitely know, right? This is our new home. Time passed very quickly. After promising Wei Mian that he would use the rebirth technique to transform his army, Wei Mian's expression changed. 1 month passed in the blink of an eye. During this period of time, Mu Yan had finally managed to smoothly integrate her divine swordsmanship with the 4 domains through the sword manual left behind by her junior martial uncle. The power of the sword technique had increased by more than 3 times. If you were to encounter an expert at the level of the mountain-splitting sect master again at this moment, even if she didn't use the power of law, she could still easily win. "What are you doing with so many cloud bones? Hurry, find the best blacksmith to forge my natal sword for me. This venerable one will not allow you to have one less natal sword than that pretty boy Luo Yunxiao." Hearing Qi Huang's nagging in her ear, Mayan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. 7 brilliance. This fellow's obsession towards little martial uncle simply reached a perverse degree. Speaking of which, ever since they parted ways in the northern continent of the purple cloud world, there had been no news of little Uncle Master. At that time, he left in a hurry. What happened? Is everything all right now? Looking at 7 brilliance. This fellow jumping around, little martial uncle should be fine, right? She doesn't know why, but Mayan has this kind of confidence in her heart. He was really at his wit's end because of Qi Huang's nagging. Mu Yan gave up on her cultivation and left the room with Xiao Bao. "Xiao Bao, I'm going to leave Liberty City for a while." Xiao Bao immediately said, "Xiao Bao will go with mother." Mu Yan smiled and nodded. The 2 walked out of the room. What he saw was a town that had completely changed. In the city of 10,000 households, the houses were connected to each other, and the paths crisscrossed. Along the street were shops that had been built, but most of them were still empty. There were very few people walking through it. They were all old, weak, women, and children from the gravel hill. Because everyone was concentrated on the large drill ground in the north. Chapter 32-23. There, Wei Mian and his men were drilling tens of thousands of troops day after day. Seeing Mu Yan, everyone's eyes lit up. They saluted her respectfully and excitedly. "Greetings, Governor." Mississippi. Wei Mian's subordinate, the scholar, walked to her and bowed. "Miss, have you come out of closed-door training? If you need anything, please tell me. I will definitely get it done for you." The scholar's original name was Zhou Zixuan. He was a very rare managerial talent. The construction of the entire Liberty City, the arrangement of logistical personnel, and the distribution of residences for soldiers and generals were almost all arranged by him. Mu Yen said, "Xiao Bao and I are going to leave Liberty City for a period of time." The scholar was stunned and hurriedly said, "Miss, please wait a moment. I will inform the general to send someone to accompany and protect you." Mu Yen was about to refuse. Suddenly, a noisy cry came from not far away. "Please, please, let me leave here, just for a period of time. Humph, military orders must be obeyed. Any coward who wants to be a deserter will be killed without mercy." Holding Xiaobao's hand, Mu Yen walked in the direction of the noise. When the onlookers saw her coming, they all saluted excitedly. "Greetings, Governor." More than 2 months ago, these people looked at Mu Yen as if they were looking at a she-devil that they feared and loathed. But now, almost everyone in the entire Liberty City was full of gratitude. It was this girl who gave them a new life. Although they hadn't really seen the vast world of the floating island, their strength was improving rapidly, and they had new pursuits and hopes in life. Mu Yen waved her hand to let everyone stand up, and then turned her eyes to the man kneeling on the ground. Mu Yen had some impression of this man. His name was Ma Quishan. Because he was rare among the younger ones in the gravel hill, a young man who looked no more than 27 or 28 years old. But after his dantian was repaired, his cultivation reached the early stage of the tribulation stage. As soon as Ma Quishan saw Mu Yen, he immediately rushed to her in tears and said in a tearful voice, "Governor, I really didn't want to betray Liberty City, and I'm not ungrateful. I really have something I have to do." Before he could finish his words, he was kicked hard from behind. "Bah, you heartless deserter. Why didn't you say anything before the treatment? Why didn't they say this before the city lord distributed the pills? Now, you want to run after taking all the benefits. What kind of place do you take Liberty City for? Do you think you can come and go as you please?" Ma Quishan's face was filled with guilt, but he kept kowtowing and begging. Mu Yen asked curiously, "What do you want to do when you leave?" Ma Quishan hesitated for a moment before saying softly, "I want to enter the Tianguang ruins to save my father." Tianguang ruins. Mu Yen slightly widens her eyes and looks at Xiao Bao. So the floating island also had a Tianguang ruins. Would she be able to see little Tian inside? As Mu Yen ponders, she suddenly discovers that the expressions of the people around her have changed. Fear could be seen in the eyes of several people. Tai Tu, who had just kicked Ma Quishan, couldn't help but ask in a rough voice, "What are you going to the Tianguang ruins for? Do you want to die?" Ma Quishan wipes his tears, his body slightly trembling as he said, "My cultivation was abolished and I was thrown into the gravel hill only 3 years ago. My Ma family is also a moderately large family, well off. My father's cultivation has reached the mysterious life realm, and no one in Jade Sea City can provoke him." Chapter 32-24. Unexpectedly, 3 years ago, my mother suddenly contracted a strange disease. After the doctor's diagnosis, he said that only the resurrected demon fruit in Tianguang ruins could cure her. My father and my mother loved each other deeply. In order to cure my mother, he disregarded his own safety and entered Tianguang ruins. When Ma Quishan said this, his expression fluctuated and his eyes revealed deep hatred. Unexpectedly, it was all a conspiracy. My mother was not sick at all, but was poisoned. It was to deceive my father into entering Tianguang ruins. Ever since we entered the Heavenly Light ruins, my father has never woken up. And that group of villains took the opportunity to rob my Ma family's property. In the end, my mother died of poison, and my father's body was taken away by his trusted subordinates to escape. I resisted desperately to buy time for my father, but my dantian was destroyed and I was thrown into Gravel Hill. My life was worse than death. Ma Quishan choked and said, I originally thought that my father had died long ago, and I was prepared to be loyal to Miss for the rest of my life and never betray her. Unexpectedly, a few days ago, when I accidentally returned to the place where my father and I parted, I saw the message left by my father's trusted subordinates. Scholar Zhou Zishuan's expression changed. You told them that we came out of Gravel Hill. No, no, how dare I? Ma Quishan shook his head repeatedly. Miss once told us not to let anyone know that we came out of Gravel Hill before the time was right. Quishan kept this in mind, and never dared to forget it for a moment. I just couldn't help but secretly follow them, and found that my father's body was still alive, but it had become as thin as a match. Because for 3 years, his divine soul had been trapped in Tianguang ruins and had never come out. Ma Quishan kowtowed to Mu Yen again and again, his tears falling like rain. Miss, I know I am ungrateful, but as a son, how can I not save my father when I know he is still alive and suffering in the Tianguang ruins? I beg you, let me go to Tianguang ruins. Your kindness, I can only repay you in my next life. Mu Yen said with some hesitation, is Tianguang ruins very scary? Isn't it a peaceful place specially used for trading, learning from each other, and gathering information? Zhou Zishuan exhaled softly and said, Miss, the place of peace you speak of is the Tianguang ruins a long time ago. 20 years ago, Tianguang ruins underwent a strange change. It turned out that more than 20 years ago, the Tianguang ruins, which was originally bustling with people, was now filled with people. Suddenly, without any warning, everyone inside was chased out. Soon after, no one could enter the Tianguang ruins for a whole 5 years. Until everyone had almost forgotten the existence of the Tianguang ruins. The biggest ruling forces on the floating island were the Lan family empire and the 3 alliances, the Burning Moon Alliance, the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and the Life Moon Alliance. They actually issued a bounty mission at the same time. The content of the mission was to let people enter the Tianguang ruins to search for the treasures on the list. There were all kinds of treasures, including heavenly deity artifacts that even the first-rate families of the floating island could not obtain. There were also king elixirs that could bring the dead back to life. There were countless precious natural treasures, rare spirit herbs, and immortal herbs. Those who accepted the bounty mission only had to enter the Tianguang ruins, find these treasures, and come out safely. Then they could receive generous rewards from the Lan family empire and the 3 alliances. When the bounty was issued, all the cultivators on the floating island flocked to it. Chapter 32-25. Who knew that after entering the Heavenly Light ruins, he would discover that the place had already changed. The once bustling and ancient town had been reduced to ruins. The rules that restricted fights and maintained peace had long since disappeared without a trace. As long as you were strong enough, you could do whatever you wanted in there and become a king. One had to know that it wasn't a human's physical body that was in the Tianguang ruins, but a divine soul. Once the divine soul was injured, there would be no buffer. It was 100 times scarier than the physical damage. Therefore, on the first day the bounty was announced, half of the people in Tianguang ruins died. Even if the remaining half survived by a fluke, even if they found a treasure, they would not be able to survive. However, he was also scared and panicked. He desperately wanted to escape. However, it was only then that they discovered the most terrifying aspect of the Tianguang ruins. The people inside couldn't come out. No, it wasn't that he couldn't get out. But if one wanted to leave the Heavenly Light ruins, there were strict rules. Zhou Zishuan said, people call the mutated sky light ruins the massacre sky light ruins. Because in this Tianguang ruins, besides the treasures hidden everywhere and the cruel law of survival of the fittest, there is also a slaughter list. Slaughter list? Mu Yen stares blankly. That's right. This massacre roll records the names of the top 1,000 soul masters who killed the most living beings in the Skylight ruins within the past 3 months. Zhou Zixuan answered, these beings can be the desolate beasts conjured from the Tianguang ruins, or they can be humans. Mu Yan frowned slightly. Is the condition to leave Tianguang ruins related to this slaughter list? Zhou Zixuan nodded. Only the 1,000 people on the slaughter list are qualified to leave Tianguang ruins. Mu Yan looks pensive. His fingers subconsciously touched the floating light jade key. This thing was given to her by little Tian. Since she was sent to the floating island, it should have something to do with the Tianguang ruins. But she tried several times here, but she was unable to enter the Tianguang ruins. So there was actually such an unforeseen event. Mu Yan suddenly said, how can I enter the heavenly ruins of massacre? The whole place fell into a deathly silence. Zhou Zixuan stammered, Miss, you wouldn't be going to Tianguang ruins, right? Please don't. Mu Yan beckons Ma Quishan with her finger, you speak. Ma Quishan was also dumbfounded. With a sobbing tone, he said, Miss, you might not know this, but the people left in the Heavenly Light ruins of massacre are basically all experts above the mysterious life realm. Those people kill people like flies and are bloodthirsty. I have no choice but to go because of my father. You must not take the risk. Mu Yan frowns, still wanting to speak. The people around him had already knelt down one by one and shouted, City Lord, please reconsider. Your precious body must not be risked. These people were not loyal to Mu Yan to this extent. It was because they knew too well that the young woman before them was the backbone of Liberty City. Mu Yan is speechless for a while. She pursed her lips and considered whether she should ask Wei Mian, the bold one, or just take Ma Quishan and leave. At this moment, the clear and deep voice of the youth rang out from the void. Mu Yan wants to know how to enter the Tianguang ruins. Why are you asking them? I'll tell you. Hearing this familiar voice, Mu Yan jerks her head around. His breathing suddenly quickened, and he hurriedly took a few steps back. Chapter 32-26. Close at hand, the face that was too big to be seen slowly became clear. Cold white skin, light pink lips, and the signature bright red scarf covering his face. Li Wei ran. Why did this pervert come back? Mayan's brows jumped, and she was about to speak. She saw a small figure suddenly rush in front of her, protecting her behind him. Xiaobao's expression was usually cold and calm. But now, his icy blue eyes were so cold that it seemed like ice shards would fall. He was looking at Li Weiran with full vigilance. Li Weiran looked down. He was stunned to see Xiaobao. He couldn't help but reach out with his slender white hand, as if he wanted to touch Xiaobao's eyes. Boz! The Bixia sword in Xiaobao's hand trembled, about to be unsheathed. But Mayan reacted quickly and hugged him, protecting him in her arms. She looked at Li Weiran coldly. What do you want to do to my son? Your son. Li Weiran tilted his head, looking interested. So Mayan, you have a son. His next sentence turned into a voice transmission. How many years has it been since I last saw a child with a natural immortal body? Mayan, you are unique, and your child is really interesting. Mayan frowned. Li Weiran, what do you want to do? Nothing much. I missed you, so I couldn't help but come over. Mayan sneered. Couldn't help but come over to kill me. Do you want to draw another bolt of lightning to kill me? Li Weiran felt wronged. Mayan was the one who drew that bolt of lightning, how can you blame me? I even risked my life to block it for you. Look, the scar left on my hand, it still hurts. The hand that reached over was slender and fair, with well-proportioned joints. It was like a work of art carved out of the most perfect white jade. There wasn't a single flaw. What fucking scar? What fucking faint pain? Mu Yen only feels a swelling pain in her temples. She had never met such a perverted and shameless person before. She couldn't beat him, and she couldn't kill him. Unreasonable and ruthless, going back on his words like a fart. His skin was as thick as a city wall. Last time, she finally waited for Di Mingju to hammer him to death, but this guy ran away faster than a ghost. Mu Yen couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He carried Xiao Bao with one hand and picked up Ma Quishan, who was still in a daze, with the other. He turned around and left. He stood on the 7 absolute sword and flashed swiftly towards the dark Parasol Desert according to Ma Quishan's guidance. The dark Parasol Desert was called a desert, but only half of it was actually a desert. The other half, with the Spirit Azure River as the dividing point, was picturesque and beautiful. On the other hand, the dark Parasol Desert was the base of the Luoyun Alliance that was one of the kingdoms, 3 alliances, and 8 great sects on the floating island. According to Ma Quishan, the heavenly light ruins of Massacre could no longer be entered with the Jade Key. One had to be in the imperial city of the Lan family empire, or in a special formation set by the Luoyun Alliance, the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and the Life Moon Alliance. Only with the Jade Key given by them could one enter the slaughtering sky light ruins. Ma Quishan said cautiously, "Miss, do you really want to enter the Tianguang ruins?" Mu Yen glanced at him and said faintly, "Describe your father's appearance and life in detail. I will help you find him, so you don't have to enter the Tianguang ruins." How can this be? Ma Quishan was anxious and excited. How can this subordinate not stay by your side and protect you? Chapter 32-27. Remember LoveNet in 1 second, providing you with exciting reading. Mu Yen glanced at him disdainfully. Don't get it wrong. I don't want you to go to Tianguang ruins because I don't want to bring along a burden. Ma Quishan. T_T, miss, do you have to be so direct? Would it kill you to let me be touched for a while longer? Mu Yen, can I go to Tianguang ruins with you? Hearing the familiar voice, Mu Yen couldn't help but roll her eyes and say, "Scram." Xiao Bao, who was in Mu Yan's arms, hugged his mother's neck tightly and glared at Li Weiran. He was clearly a cute little doll, but at this moment, the vigilance and killing intent in his eyes were so real that it made people feel uneasy. Li Weiran looked at Mu Yen and then at Xiao Bao, but he laughed softly. The eyes behind the red silk shone with a strange, flirtatious light. Most of the Luoyun Alliance's forces are in the oasis, but the transfer point to Tianguang ruins is set in the dark Parasol Desert. The 7 absolute swords slowly stopped in front of a city in the yellow sand. This city didn't cover a large area, and the construction was extremely simple. It formed a sharp contrast with the bustling city in the oasis north of the Spirit Azure River. As soon as they landed, the wind and sand hit them in the face, causing Mu Yen and the others to be covered in dust. When they followed the direction of the city to the city gate, they all looked a little disheveled. Even the well-dressed Li Weidi looked unkempt and dirty, like a beggar. The guard at the city gate opened his eyes in a daze and looked at them strangely. Are you planning to enter Tianguang ruins to look for treasures? Seeing the 3 nod, the guard looked at them with pity and disdain. Then he sneered and handed them a gray jade ring full of impurities. Go, go, go. As long as you are in the dark Parasol City, no matter where you try to activate the jade ring with your divine sense, you can enter Tianguang ruins. Of course, your bodies will be left outside, so if you want to have a chance of survival, find a room and hide. Li Weiran took the jade ring and couldn't help but ask curiously, don't we need to register? The guard looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Seeing how serious Li Weiran was, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Registration. What's the point of registering someone who's about to die? Li Weiran seemed to be unconvinced and wanted to argue with the guard. In the end, Mu Yan didn't care about him at all. She pulled Ma Quishan and entered the city. Li Weiran pursed his lips and followed unwillingly. Mu Yan, don't you think it's too hot here? Dust and sand filled the air, and there was a foul smell. It's really boring. Shall we change the place? I think the Sacred Heaven Alliance's Mountain of Wonders is not bad. Mu Yan stops and coldly looks at him, either shut up or get lost. The youth in front of him pursed his lips, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he remained silent. Li Weiran had never been one to listen. Previously, in the gravel hill, he had to think of ways to torture her every time. But this time, when he returned, he was surprisingly obedient. Along the way, he did whatever he was told to do. Never talk back after being scolded. Even those pranks that he used to torture her did not appear again. However, Mu Yan didn't relax. Instead, she became even more vigilant. This little pervert is so docile. Who knows, he might be preparing for some big move. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 32-28. Remember LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. Kangwoo City is not so much a city, but rather 3 strange ring-shaped buildings. Each building occupies tens of thousands of square meters, and is 10 stories high. Each floor is separated into thousands of rooms. From afar, it looks extremely majestic. However, walking inside, it's eerie and frightening. Strange runes can be seen scribbled on the outer wall's peeling walkway. You can also see a lot of blackened bloodstains. When walking past the broken windows, you can even hear the terrifying howling of the wind. There are illuminating crystals on the corridors of each floor. But perhaps because the energy blocks have been exhausted, the light emitted by these crystals is dim and flickering. It adds a bit of gloomy and mournful ghostly atmosphere to the surrounding atmosphere. Ma Quishan is a tribulation cultivator who has experienced the vicissitudes of life. At this moment, he can't help but feel a chill down his spine. Even his voice has a bit of a tremble. Miss, do you really want to enter the Tianguang ruins? You don't understand the current Tianguang ruins of massacre. That place is really far more terrifying than you think. You don't have to take this risk for me. Mu Yan is too lazy to respond to his sentimental sentiments. She randomly finds an empty room and pushes the door to enter. Creak. The old iron door makes an ear-piercing sound. Dust sprinkles down from above. Mu Yan is about to enter when her heart suddenly shudders. She suddenly looks to the side. She doesn't know when, but a gap has been opened in the room next door. A pair of glowing green eyes is looking at her from inside. It's a woman with disheveled hair and a face full of blood. Seeing Mu Yan look over, the corners of her mouth immediately rise up, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. But there seems to be some red powder on those teeth. Mu Yan frowns and is about to speak. But she hears a bang, and the door is closed. And this sound seems to have alarmed the others. 2 more doors open around them, and a few tall and sturdy men walk out. Seeing Mu Yan and Li Weiran, their eyes brighten. TSK, how long has it been since I saw a woman in this Kangwoo city? Little girl, do you want to seek death in Tianguang ruins at such a young age? Why don't I give you a chance? As long as you serve me well, I'll guarantee that you can live for 3 months in the Tianguang ruins. How about it? Hee, you can have the woman, but I want this brother bunny. TSK. Playing with such a soft and tender man is much more enjoyable than playing with a woman. Li Weiran pursed his lips and hid behind Mu Yan. His hands that were holding onto her clothes seemed to be trembling in fear. When Xiao Bao saw this scene, he was so angry that he clenched his fists. He wanted nothing more than to rush out and beat up this bad guy who dared to covet his mother. The exorcism sword buzzed and said, "Damn, this acting can even compete for an Oscar." Along the way, he had witnessed Little Bao and Li Weiran's battle. Even though Li Weiran always looked like he was enduring and giving in, even asking Mu Yan for help from time to time. But anyone with eyes could see that his strength was much higher than Mu Yan and Xiao Bao's. At first, Mayan was still on guard against him in every possible way. But there was really nothing she could do about him. Seeing that he really wasn't playing any tricks this time, she thought. In the end, he could only let him be. Chapter 32-29. Bang! In response to them, Mu Yan slammed the door shut. Li Weiran barely managed to squeeze through the crack of the door. He heard the curses of several men outside. "Shameless bitches, I'll make them cry later." Mu Yan turned a deaf ear to the curses outside. She took out the talisman and pasted it on the door. In a split second, a powerful protective cover enveloped the whole room, isolating the sound outside. Mu Yan took out the jade ring and looked at Ma Quishan. "You guard here. If I don't come out after 10 days, take my body back to Liberty City." Saying that, she handed Ma Quishan a stack of talismans. The top few are invisibility talismans, and the others are defense talismans and imperial talismans. "Anyway, you can do as you see fit." Ma Quishan took them in a daze, feeling a little dizzy. Talismans. These were all precious talismans. Wasn't the family of the Gathering Spirit City the only one who was good at talismans? Moreover, Ma Quishan had heard of invisibility talisman and imperial talisman. Those were all treasures that were hard to find. But the miss actually gave him a stack of them all at once. Mu Yan frowned. "What? You can't even do this. Or do you have to go to Tianguang ruins to find your father?" No. Ma Quishan shook his head repeatedly. "This subordinate can do it. Miss, rest assured, even if I die, this subordinate will definitely protect your body." Mu Yan nodded and was about to go in. But in a flash, a small figure appeared in front of her. Nyangqin. Xiao Bao grabbed Mu Yan's hand and said eagerly, "Xiao Bao will go in with you." Mu Yan shook her head, "Not for the time being. The situation in Tianguang ruins is unknown. It's too dangerous. Let Nyangqin go in and explore first, okay?" Xiao Bao showed a struggling and unwilling expression. "Xiao Bao, be good. Nyangqin will definitely come out alive." Regarding Tianguang ruins, Mu Yan always had a kind of blind confidence. She always felt that no matter how dangerous this place was, she would not be hurt. Moreover, she still had the floating light jade key. Mu Yan believed that this thing was definitely related to the Tianguang ruins of the floating island. But Xiao Bao was different. She would never allow her baby to take such a risk. Xiao Bao pursed his small mouth and finally lowered his head. After sending Xiao Bao back to the Tian Mo Qin space, Mu Yan grasped the jade slit ring and is about to enter it with her divine sense. She watched as Li Weiran walked to her side and sat beside her against the wall. The slightly pale thin lips slowly hooked up, revealing a youthful and clear smile. "Mu Yan, don't be afraid. No matter how dangerous Tianguang ruins is, I will definitely protect you." Mu Yan rolls her eyes. "If you don't harm me, I'll be Amitabha." "I won't harm you anymore," Li Weiran said calmly. "If you die, no one in this world will be able to grow the dark cloud's spirit flower. When the lightning struck, I realized that I didn't want you to die. There is no deep hatred between us. Since I don't want you to die, I will follow my heart and protect you. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me now. As time passes, you will eventually believe me. Mu Yen stares blankly at the youngster in front of her. She really wants to roll her eyes again to show her disdain and disbelief. But for some reason, there was an intuition in the depths of his heart. This time, what Li Weiran said was the truth. After saying these words, Li Weiran lay down and slowly closed his eyes. The jade pendant in his hand emitted a faint light. Mu Yen frowned and did not speak anymore. She instantly activated the jade pendant in her hand and entered Tianguang ruins. Chapter 32:30. His soul seemed to be shaken violently by something. Mu Yen abruptly opened her eyes and saw a rows of blood-red words floating in the air. Yi Liangchen, welcome to the slaughtering world of Tianguang ruins. Now announcing the iron rules of the bloodshed universe. The first rule is that any newcomers who enter the world of bloodshed can only leave after staying for 3 months in the Skylight ruins. The time difference between Tianguang ruins and reality is 10-1. The second rule is that the rebirth points are divided into north, south, east, and west. Whichever rebirth point you enter from, you must leave from that rebirth point. Otherwise, you won't be able to return to your body, and your soul will perish. The third rule, only 1,000 people on the Carnage roll have the qualifications to leave the Tianguang ruins. Fourth, the way to obtain points is by killing people or dire beasts. You get 10 points for every wild beast you kill, 10 points for every person you kill, plus half of the person's original points. The fifth rule, anyone who finds a treasure in the Tianguang ruins can take it away with the jade key. Only the core, floating light island. Mayan is engrossed in reading it, when suddenly the words in front of her eyes sway and unexpectedly disappear. Another line of text popped up in front of her. Excuse me, are you sure you want to enter the massacre world of Tianguang ruins? Little Tian. Tian. Mu Yen did not answer immediately. Instead, she controlled her body to turn in a different direction in the chaos and shouted loudly. However, after shouting for a long time, there was no response at all. Mu Yen sighs in disappointment and is about to answer, yes. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a faintly discernible figure in the distant void. He was a handsome young man with neat short hair and strange clothes. Little Tian. Isn't this Little Tian? It was just that the short-haired youth in the past always had a sunny, cheerful, naive, and sweet look. Even though the youth in front of him had a blurry appearance, he could see that his expression was grave and stern, and his eyes were sinister. His entire person exuded a ghastly aura. It's just that Mayan's entire body and mind are filled with the joy of finally seeing Xiao Tian. For a moment, she doesn't notice this subtle change. Little Tian, I finally meet you. Her figure flickered, and she appeared in front of Little Tian. She was just about to speak. Suddenly, a cold and slender finger touched her forehead. An emotionless and cold voice rang in his ears, I am not the sky, but the light. A bone-piercing chill came from his divine soul, followed by a sharp pain in his brain. Mayan's body spasms in pain, and she almost collapses to the ground. Little Tian looked down at her from above, and there was no warmth in his dark eyes. This is your punishment for being rude. Mayan endures the bone-chilling pain in her head and raises her head to look at the youth in front of her. His words echoed in her mind, I am not the sky, but the light. Suddenly remembering something, his eyes widened as he blurted out, You're Xiao Guang. Yes. Back then, Little Heaven had said that it was very happy to see its first host. If Little Light and Little Su knew about this, they would definitely envy him. At that time, she had been curious about who Little Light and Little Su were. Hearing Mu Yan's words, the youth in front of him was stunned, and a trace of confusion appeared in his expression. He muttered, "You call me little light. Who is calling me?" First generation. Suddenly, a pained expression appeared on his face. He hugged himself with both hands as his body trembled violently. Because of his trembling, the entire Tianguang ruins' primal chaos space seemed to tremble. "Little light, what's wrong?" Chapter 32-31. 1 second to remember. LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Mu Yan supports the youth who is on the verge of collapse. Why does your expression look so painful? Tell me what happened? Little Guang raises his head, his misty gaze falling on Mu Yan's face. His lips open and close, making a vague sound. First generation, host, I. Before he can finish speaking, his body fiercely twitches, and his eyes suddenly seem to clear up a bit, but also seem to be stained with a bone-chilling frost. "You shouldn't have come here," he says word by word in a clear and mellow voice unique to youth. Mu Yan is about to ask, when suddenly the world before her eyes spins, and her body heavily smashes onto the hard ground. She hears a mechanical voice that's almost the same as little Tian's. Only, this voice doesn't have little Tian's hidden joviality and joy, only numbness and coldness. "Yi Liangqin, welcome to Tianguang Ruins' world of slaughter. Here, killing is not a crime, the strong are respected. Here, there is only killing and being killed. Now, please begin your journey of slaughter." Mu Yan presses her forehead and stands up. She can't help but think in her mind, what happened to little Guang? What she sees is a broken wall with sand and dust filling the sky. Only at the far end can she see a dense forest of hills. But there's not the slightest bit of green in that forest, and it's full of vitality. From the top to the bottom, it's shrouded in a gray fog. Looking from afar, it only makes people feel eerie and cold. The air is filled with a putrid smell of blood. Mu Yan can't help but frown. How did the floating island's Tianguang ruins become like this? Just at this moment, a few silhouettes dashed over from afar and surrounded her in an instant. "Hee, little girl, do you still remember me?" The one speaking is a brawny man with bulging muscles. Mu Yan recognizes them at a glance. They're the people she met in Kangwu City. "Previously in Kangwu City, I told you to serve me well in exchange for 3 months of survival, but you didn't listen. Now, even if you kneel at Laozi's feet, Laozi won't let you off easily." The other person sized Mu Yan up from head to toe, yet he said with disdain, "Earlier in Dark Parasol City, even though you were disheveled and dirty, the exposed skin on your arms was fair and exquisite, and I thought you were a rare beauty. I didn't expect him to be so ordinary. Damn it, I was excited for nothing. I told you that Brother Bunny is the real beauty." The man who teased Li Weiran licked his lips. "Little girl, where's your lover? If you hand him over, Grandpa promises that you'll die a quick death in Tianguang ruins." Mu Yan stares blankly at his words. She looked around but did not see Li Weiran anywhere. The corner of his mouth twitched involuntarily. A moment ago, the boy had said, "Mu Yan, don't be afraid. No matter how dangerous Tianguang ruins is, I will definitely protect you." His words still rang in her ears. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, not even a shadow could be seen? As expected, the words of that little pervert could be trusted. Even the sun could rise from the west. Seeing that Mu Yan doesn't speak, the faces of the men in front of her suddenly sink. "Smelly whore, I gave you face, but you don't want it." Women just need to be taught a lesson. Especially those newcomers who just came in, they always think that this world of slaughter is still the fairyland-like Tianguang ruins of the past. That Brother Bunny thinks that by not entering Tianguang ruins and hiding in Kangwu City, he can escape this disaster? Really too naive. After I'm done with this woman, let's go and have some fun with that soft-skinned kid. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 3232. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. He looked at the crowd that was approaching him step by step. Mu Yen frowns in boredom, her divine sense slightly activating. A sparkling and translucent long sword slowly appeared in her palm, overflowing with cold light. Sure enough, Tianguang ruins did not allow the use of force in the cultivation continent, so most of her weapons could not be taken out in the Tianguang ruins. But it was different here. This was the world of slaughter, which encouraged the use of force to solve problems. She lifted her head to look at the 4 people in front of her and said unhurriedly, I have some feelings for Tianguang ruins, and originally didn't want to stain my hands with blood. It's a pity that you guys are unlucky and have to bump into me when I'm in a bad mood. An hour later. 3 of the 6 men who had come to bully him had already turned into white light and disappeared from the Tianguang ruins forever. The other 3 men had bloody noses and swollen faces. They trembled as they knelt on the ground, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Queen, heroine, fairy, spare me, spare me. It's all our fault for not recognizing you and offending you. Please be magnanimous and give us another chance, boo-hoo. The 3 people who had turned into white lights didn't die and leave the Tianguang ruins. Instead, his soul would truly be destroyed and he would never be able to reincarnate. It wasn't easy for them to survive in the heavenly ruins of slaughter and get through the most difficult period. They didn't want to die so inexplicably. Heroine, as long as you are willing to let us go, we are willing to offer all the treasures in the Jade Key to you. Yes, yes, we are willing to serve you like cattle and horses. We only beg you to spare our lowly lives. Mu Yen glances at their heads. Their names in the Tianguang ruins were written on them. First Su's lowly life is easy to support, second Su's lowly life is easy to support, third Su's lowly life is easy to support. Her mouth couldn't help but twitch. What kind of stupid name was that? You guys are brothers. Su De nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. We are brothers. Heroine, if you have any orders, just tell us. We 3 brothers will definitely do our best to fulfill them. Mu Yen picks up the 3 jade rings that have fallen to the ground and casually probes them with her divine sense. He discovered that there were pitifully few treasures inside. She frowned in disgust and transferred everything into her jade key space. He then casually found a rock and sat down, crossing his legs as he asked casually, then let's talk about the situation in the Tianguang ruins first. If what you say is useful, I might spare your lives. Su De, heroine, please ask. I will definitely tell you everything I know. Mayan throws away the jade in her hand. The 3 of them are people on the carnage list. What's your ranking? Su De shook his head and said with a flattering smile, although Brother Lu and the others have some ability, how can they compare to you, heroine? Not to mention those gods on the carnage list. This made Mayan reveal an astonished expression. Isn't it said that only the 1,000 people on the carnage list are qualified to leave Tianguang ruins? Su De said, heroine, you may not know this, but although there are 1,000 names on the slaughter roll, only the first 900 are true experts. The remaining 100 are controlled by the major forces of the Tianguang ruins. Trading position. Yes, that's right. As long as you collect enough treasures and offer them to the major forces of the Tianguang ruins as a deposit, you can get the opportunity to occupy a trading position and freely enter and exit the Tianguang ruins. Mayan suddenly understood. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the Zii website. Chapter 3233. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. No wonder those dregs she killed could come out of the Tianguang ruins, even though they were not strong. But since they came out, why would they go back? Because most people can only pay a down payment for the treasures they have collected, and the rest of the balance is repaid indefinitely in the form of debt. If they dare to defect, they will be slaughtered by those big forces and die without a whole corpse. Mu Yan immediately understood. No wonder there were still so many people left in the Tianguang ruins, where killing was encouraged. It turned out that the big forces were supporting them to find the treasures in the Tianguang ruins for them. They even used coercion and bribery to attract more newcomers and expand the treasure hunting team to obtain more benefits. Mu Yan frowned. Tell me about the forces in the Tianguang ruins. Su De didn't expect that Mu Yan didn't even know this, and there was surprise in his eyes. But he still answered cautiously, in this world of bloodshed, there are a total of 3 major forces. The first is called Pavilion of Drunkenness, and its leader is Fuizue, who ranks first on the carnage list. The second force is called Moon of West River, and its leader is Charming Lady of West River, who ranks third on the carnage list. The third force is called Thunder Gang, and its leader is Invincible Thunder, who ranks fourth on the carnage list. Just by listening to these names, she knew that the people in the Tianguang ruins were almost all rogue cultivators without any sections. But it was also right. How many people from aristocratic families would come to such a dangerous place to seek trouble? Mu Yan took out another portrait and unfolded it. Have you seen this person? According to Ma Quishan's description, Mu Yan had drawn a portrait of his father. According to Ma Quishan, it was at least 70 to 80% similar to his father. Su De and the other 2 hurriedly came over to take a look, and then shook their heads. No, I haven't seen him. Mu Yan was a little disappointed, but felt that it was natural. The Tianguang ruins was so big, and there were countless people trapped inside. It would be good if it was so easy to find them. She tossed the 3 jade rings in her hand. These 3 had just been respectfully offered by the 3 Su brothers. Seeing the female devil casually tossing her jade keys, the hearts of the 3 jumped to their throats. The next moment, they hear Mayan say, "How long have you been in the Tianguang ruins?" Hearing this, the 3 Su brothers were stunned and became dejected. 8 years. We've been trapped here for 8 years. 8 years. Even with Mu Yan's calmness, she couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression at this time, not even once. The 3 Su brothers nodded. We're too weak, and we don't have enough points and treasures on us. If we encounter someone like Boss Lu just now, we'll do anything to serve him. We just hope to survive in Tianguang ruins. Mu Yan looked at the trio. Don't you want to leave Tianguang ruins? Go out. How is that possible? Su De laughed bitterly. We stopped dreaming about this 8 years ago. Mayan said carelessly, I can let you leave Tianguang ruins, but the premise is that you have to work for me. What? What? Leave Tianguang ruins. How do we leave? Mayan touches her chin, muttering to herself, I'll think of something after I climb up the carnage list. Hee, heroine, don't make fun of us again. We also know that you are very powerful, but you are still far from climbing up the carnage leaderboard. Do you know who the top few people on the carnage leaderboard are? For mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 32-34. Remembering LoveNet in 1 second, providing you with interesting reading. Su San immediately continued, Lian Ryue and Lei Wudi are experts at the peak of the mysterious life realm, and Fuizue, who is ranked first, is at the mountain opening realm. And everyone in the top 900 of the slaughter list is at least at the middle level of the mysterious life realm. Although everyone's cultivation is suppressed to the early level of the mysterious life realm in Tianguang ruins, how can we ordinary cultivators compare to their battle experience and the strength of their divine senses? The three of them rattled off a bunch of things. Although they didn't dare to be disrespectful because their lives were in Mu Yan's arms. But his expression was clearly saying, "You're just a little girl at the mortal cultivation realm, and you want to compete with a powerful person at the mysterious life realm for a spot on the slaughter list? Isn't that just a pipe dream?" Mu Yan sneered and pinched the jade in her hand, making a gurgling sound. "It's up to you whether you believe me or not. But you have to do it even if you don't want to." The three brothers of the Su family trembled in fear, then their faces were full of resentment. They had originally planned to work hard without complaint, but now they were ordered around by this demoness. Anyway, serving Boss Lu and the others was one thing, but serving this demoness was the same thing. But who asked this demoness to boast shamelessly, even saying such a joke as wanting to enter the slaughter list? "Heroine, if you need anything, we are willing to go through fire and water, we don't need anything in return." Yes, heroine, sparing our lives is already a great kindness, how would we dare to ask for anything in return? Mu Yan looked at the three with a faint smile and threw the jade in her hand to them. "I hope you won't regret it in the future." Regret? What did they have to regret? Suda and the other two curled their lips in disdain. Then they heard this shameless demoness ask again, "Where are we going to kill the wild beasts?" Suda pointed to the dense forest shrouded in grey fog in the distance. "Most of the wild beasts are concentrated in the forest." "But, heroine, are you planning to hunt wild beasts to accumulate points?" Mu Yan raised her brows. "Why? Can't I?" Was she joking? Did this female devil really plan on entering the slaughter list? And it was through killing wasteland beasts to enter the slaughter list? Suda and the other two almost burst out laughing. This woman had no common sense at all. However, even if he complained 100 times in his heart, he did not dare to show it on his face. Su Dideo said, "The slaughter list is updated once every 3 months. Right now, there are only 15 days left from the 3-month deadline. Heroine, do you know how many points the person in last place on the Carnage leaderboard has?" Su Air, "It's 9,967 points. It was refreshed once every 3 months, yet there were so many points." Even Mu Yan can't help but stare blankly. Then, he immediately reacted. That was because he had killed someone. Killing a desolate beast was only worth 100 points. Killing a person was also worth 100 points. However, if they killed the person and obtained points, it would be a different story. On the other hand, the points obtained by cultivators would not be refreshed during the 3-month period. Seeing Mu Yan's expression, Suda felt smug in his heart. He thought to himself, "Now you want to rush up the rankings again. Stop daydreaming. Are you scared now? You won't dare to talk big again, right?" Who knew that in the next moment, he would hear the woman's calm and steady voice, "How many wild beasts are there in the Tianguang ruins? Will they all be killed?" This. Of course not. The dire beasts are endless. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 32-35. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Su Da's eyes widened slightly. "Heroine, you can't be thinking of killing wild beasts to accumulate points, right? Do you have some misunderstanding about the wild beasts in the Tianguang ruins? Those aren't ordinary savage beasts, and they aren't the summoned beasts of those weak soul masters. The divine soul of a desolate beast is usually several times stronger than that of an ordinary cultivator. Moreover, the stronger the opponent, the stronger they would become. In other words, if you are a spirit master of the mortal cultivation stage, then the wild beasts you encounter are also of the mortal cultivation stage. But if you are a spirit master of the mysterious life stage, then the wild beasts you encounter will also be of the mysterious life stage, or even higher. Therefore, in the Tianguang ruins, killing a dire beast is even more difficult than killing a person. Su Deong spoke eloquently, waiting to see the look of fear and regret on the face of this arrogant woman. Unexpectedly, the girl in front of them just casually replied with an "oh" and waved at them. Remember to help me find the person. We'll meet here again in half a month. Without waiting for the three of them to react, he took a step forward and instantly appeared several hundred feet away. Su De and the others were left standing there in a daze. They looked at each other and could not come to their senses for a long time. Mu Yan's idea is very simple. She could slowly investigate Light's abnormality. The most important thing now was to climb up the slaughter list and be able to freely enter and leave the Tianguang ruins. For others, wild beasts were indeed more difficult to deal with than many weak cultivators. But it's different for Mu Yan. Although it was said that the stronger one was, the desolate beasts were just illusions created by Tianguang ruins. They did not have a consciousness of their own. The so-called becoming stronger when encountering a strong opponent was completely based on the level of the opponent. In other words, Mu Yan, a cultivator at the crossing tribulation stage, peak of the mortal cultivation realm, would at most encounter a mortal cultivation realm wild beast. However, as early as the first day that Mayan advanced to the crossing tribulation stage, she was already invincible at the same stage. Why would he care about a mere dire beast of the same level? Moreover, the other advantage of desolate beasts was that their spiritual sense was far more powerful than that of ordinary cultivators. But the problem was that Mayan's knowledge sea had long been vast and boundless. Even Wei Mian, who was a battle general, felt ashamed of his inferiority. How could desolate beasts compare? As a result, Mu Yan goes straight into the wild beast forest that others avoid like the plague, unhindered. In just 10 days, the number of desolate beasts that had died at her hands was innumerable. The dense forest that was shrouded in grey fog finally came to an end. At the end of the dark and stinky forest was a long, dark blue river. The sky was dark and gloomy, but the river reflected specks of starlight, dazzling and resplendent. However, at this moment, Mu Yan's attention was not on the river at all. Instead, it was attracted by the floating island on the other side of the river. His eyes widened slightly, revealing an expression of disbelief. Mu Yan did not know that because of her, the entire, slaughtering Heavenlight ruins, was in a mess at this moment. Thunder Gang, S-Base. You haven't found anything yet? Who was this Yi Liangqin? After entering the slaughter list 4 days ago, in a short span of 4 days, he rose from 999 to within the top 500. Not yet. Trash. With such a fast speed, he must have killed someone and snatched the points. How could he not find out? Continue investigating. You must find him for me. Yes. This little one obeys. Shijiang Moon, Station. Chapter 32-36. Remember LoveNet will provide you with interesting reading material. Hee, sister you're just trying to keep him in your tent. You're annoying. Don't say it when you see through it, understand? Pavilion of Drunkenness, S Station. Boss, this Yap Liangqin is too strange. I've never heard of this name before, but it popped up all of a sudden. Moreover, this rate of growth is even faster than you back then, boss. The strangest thing is that we've searched the entire slaughtering world, but we didn't find any experts with rich points who were killed. How did this Yap Liangqin climb to the 400s of the Carnage leaderboard in just a few days? Fu Yizue pondered for a while and suddenly said, He didn't kill anyone, so he must have killed a wild beast. Wild beast. The subordinate couldn't help but scream, "Boss, are you kidding me? How many wild beasts did he kill to achieve that? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Boss, you must have made a mistake. Yes, we must have missed someone. He wasn't on the leaderboard, but he was killed." In the Tianguang ruins, the three brothers of the Su family were in even more disbelief than the three major forces and the others. Especially in the center of the Tianguang ruins, in front of the huge leaderboard, this was the only place where fighting was prohibited, but hiding was also prohibited. In every 3 months after the leaderboard was updated, one was only allowed to stay there for a maximum of 24 hours. If one exceeded the time limit, they would be forcefully expelled. Discussions could be heard from time to time. "I heard that the Thunder Gang, West River Moon, and Pavilion of Drunkenness all sent people to investigate, but none of them found out who this Yap Liangchen is. What's more strange is that we didn't hear about anyone with high points dying. How did this Yap Liangchen climb to the middle of the Carnage leaderboard?" The three brothers, who had decided not to come near the rebirth point to avoid bumping into the female demon, looked at each other in dismay. They saw the dullness and absent-mindedness in each other's eyes. That's right, they didn't even have the time to be shocked. Their hearts were filled with the absent-mindedness of listening to a magical story. Big brother, I am not seeing things, right? The Yap Liangchen on the Carnage leaderboard, is he really the Yap Liangchen that we know? Su De wiped his face. You're asking me. Who should I ask? However, although both of them were asking questions, there was already a crazed voice roaring in their hearts. It was her. It was her. It was her. The Yap Liangchen who appeared out of nowhere on the slaughter list was definitely the female devil. Why didn't anyone know her identity? This was because the demoness had just entered the Tianguang ruins 10 days ago. Why couldn't they find out that someone had been killed? This was because the demoness was constantly killing desolate beasts in the dense forest. Her points were all obtained by killing desolate beasts. Su Er took out the crumpled portrait from his bosom. Big brother, are we still going to throw this away? Bang! Su De mercilessly hit his brother's head with an explosive pellet. He carefully took the painting and opened it like a treasure. Idiot, this is our hope and future. Throw it away. Are you kidding me? Do you want to stay in Tianguang ruins forever? Su Er and Su Sand shook their heads, their eyes full of desire. Su De waved his hand and gritted his teeth. Then what are you waiting for? Observe the person in the painting carefully. Even if you have to turn the entire Tianguang ruins upside down, you must find him. Our happiness for the rest of our lives depends on him. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the Self-Love website. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.